Big Sills. Let me see if anything has come across the. You see, there's something called the Sports Wire, and then there's something called the Big Sills Sports Wire. And let me see if anything, and by the way, my friend Tone will keep us abreast of anything coming out of the NovaCare Center. It's funny, you know what I just told them? I just told them that Nick Sirianni today will be interviewing for the head coaching job for a second time for the Philadelphia Eagles today. He's interviewing again for the job. Because anything he says in that meeting, that ownership and the GM aren't on the same page with, he'll find his ass on the same train that Denard Wilson was on, right out of town. That's what he's doing. He is interviewing for his job. They're going to sit and talk, and I think anything that's said in that meeting that doesn't jive with what they think and how they think and what they want to do, and I mean Howie and the owner, he's out. So he, in theory, has to sell himself again. Why he's the guy. You see, change is not always great. Change creates instability. You ever notice the great organizations who don't make a lot of coaching changes? Those are usually the ones with the most success. The ones that have a revolving door at quarterback and also at head coach are the ones that don't have success. Plain and simple. Look around the league. You keep firing coaches and keep bringing in new quarterbacks, you're the Browns. So you want to stay on the stability track, not instability. Firing people is not what you want to do as an organization. I like the fact that they're in a 72-hour cooling period. I think that's smart business. Because at the end of the day, you can reflect back and go, what's different from a year ago? The two coordinators. You can always land on that. Hey, we did get to the playoffs. Hey, we did win 11 games. Did it fall apart? Yes. But think about it. You had a horrible season. You fell apart. You were the 5th seed, and you won 11 games. I'm not giving you excuses. I'm looking at both sides of this. This will be the biggest decision that Jeffrey Lurie makes in his 30 years since he's owned the team, because it's a pivotal, directional decision. Do I go here or do I go there? By the way, if you hire an experienced and one of those big-name guys, that means the emphasis will be on Howie Roseman, and his power will be diminished. He's got to determine that. All of you guys want one of these big-name coaches. Well, what does the owner want? Does he want to clip the wings of his GM, or does he want to clip the wings of his head coach? That's what the owner has to decide. It really doesn't matter what the name is. This is about structural control. What do I want to do? Give more control to my coach, or more control, or keep status quo with my GM? That's where you are in this. Again, the names are irrelevant because they've always been irrelevant. Remember something about the Eagles and how they look at the coach and the head coach. They don't put a gigantic emphasis on the head coach because they've thought of them as being interchangeable. And they have been interchangeable. Oh, Andy Reid included. You're looking at this way wrong. This is more about what the owner of the Eagles wants to accomplish here. Do I stay status quo with Howie? See, you guys are going for the low-hanging fruit, and Nick Sirianni, who's meeting again, like we said today, and interviewing to keep his job. The owner has to decide, do I stay status quo with the GM and his power structure, or do I give somebody new the opportunity who's going to want more control? That means he loses control. And the owner of the Eagles likes control. So you have to ask yourself, what's he going to do? Here, ask yourself this question. If 2023, was it enough for him to change his philosophical thinking? Or does he look at it as a blip on the radar? How does he look at that? Because look, I was in a Super Bowl 12 months ago. We had this disaster. At the end of the day, I still won 25 games in 2 years. 3 straight playoff appearances. We've set the bar so high, which is good. Peter goes, we will keep Nick just like Chargers keeping Staley last year when everyone knew he should be fired. And look how that turned out. True. What if you get him 2 good coordinators like he had when he won in 2022 and he went to the NFC Championship and won it? Obviously now they had great coordinators in 22. 23 they didn't. Okay? V goes like this. We need a change. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. 25 wins. Again, you're looking at it wrong. If they change Nick Sirianni out, that means Howie maintains and it stays status quo. It won't matter. Stop doing that. Fire Nick Sirianni means that you're staying status quo. Howie's not going to be working for Bill Belichick. That would never work, including Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel or any of those high-powered guys. That is not the list. By the way, I've got 5 candidates for you, and I want you to stay in your lane. You are not acting like the Philadelphia Eagles. Name me one high-powered coach that you have hired since that owner has owned the team. Name me one. You can't, because he won't. He hired a hype. You think Jim Harbaugh would take that job with the current power structure in the Eagle organization with Howie Roseman having total say over Jim Harbaugh? Why would Harbaugh leave Michigan? Michigan's a better job. I'd rather take less. By the way, you think that owner, Jeffrey Lurie, is going to pay $20 million for Jim Harbaugh? Give me a break. The guy who needs to be fired is Howie Roseman, if you want one of those big name guys. Or restructuring his duties. Look, I don't want Howie fired. I think there is a need for him, and I think he's spectacular at constructing contracts. And I think he does a pretty fair job when it comes to really being in pro personnel. But when it comes to drafting, hiring some of these coaches, the meddling on game day, telling you who's going to be active and not on Thursdays, is over the line. He's over the line. I mean, by the way, I heard something. Bring Brandon Graham back? What do you think this thing is here? Ceremonial goodbye tours? Get the fuck out of here. Are you crazy? I'm not into keeping ceremonial goodbye tours. You're either in or you're not. You're either rebuilding or you're not. You can't half-ass it. That's the problem you had last year. Time to move on. Let's go. Well, you know, he's one of the... I don't care. Well, here's a great Eagle. He'll always be a great Eagle. What does that have to do with 2024? Nothing. Nothing. He's finished. Bye. Gone. Out. They're always the greatest thing in New England. You know what that is? They always made the toughest cuts. They weren't afraid to move off of anybody. And that's why they were champions for 20 years. Jalen going to have to say it all, Sills. Not sure. We'll get to Hurts in a little bit here. But by the way, we're going to do our exit interviews with the players here. And we're going to look at how they did. Okay? Time to move on. Time to move on, man. It's time to, hey, you can't be half in. You can't be half in. And by the way, after I meet with Nick Sirianni today, I'm going to have a meeting if I'm the owner of that team, and I'm going to sit there and go, Jalen, what's your problem with him? Nick Sirianni, and Nick, what's your problem with him? Let's see if we can work this out, because if we can't, he's gone. Okay? And that'll be on you as well. What's the problem here? By the way, one thing is for sure. Jalen Hurts doesn't know how to be a leader of a football team yet. Say what it is. He doesn't know how to be a leader yet. He's a young player. He'll get there. But you guys have rushed all this stuff, calling this guy. Hey, dude, does he have intestinal fortitude and internal character for himself to get where he needs to? Yes. But he's not exuding that. He's not exuding that. Jalen Hurts, as far as I'm concerned, was a front runner. Does he have all the intangible characters that I think it takes to be a great leader? I do. But he has to develop into that also. I think Josh Allen this year, that was one of the most important things for him after they fired Ken Dorsey, was that he became more of a leader of that Bills team. I think after they fired Dorsey, you know what happened to Allen? Damn. I'm just as responsible for Ken Dorsey getting fired as anybody. This is really on me. I think he became a better leader. And I think he gained more respect in the locker room because he took ownership of it. That's leadership. Jalen does not suck. Don't go over the line. That's not what I'm saying. He's a young player. Don't be so butthurt when someone says something and is critically your guy. My God, you guys are so anal. If anybody has constructive criticism about anybody, everybody in that locker room needs to grow up, including the coach. I think it's clear he doesn't endorse Nick. Oh, but he did a year ago. Was he a front runner? Did he have a problem with Nick last year? So this is just carried over. So Jalen hated Nick last year too, or is this something that just developed? Or is he now going to be Jalen's excuse? If that doesn't work between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, that's also on Jalen Hurts. Make it work. Dude, leadership is something that is exuded when times are tough, not just things are going great and you're sailing into the sunset. A true leader is when shit hits the fan and he rises above. Not when there's clear sailing. And some of the comments that he makes. Well, I didn't know he was going anywhere. What an asshole answer. Hey, Jalen, that's an asshole answer. It is. I would call you an asshole to your face if you answered that. You didn't know. Really. All your turnovers and all your bullshit, you didn't know. And your coach died on the sword for you for that Seattle bullshit, and you didn't know. Well, then you're dumb. You're dumber than I thought. You make yourself look stupid, dude. And I don't even like defending Sirianni. But you look dumb. Sirianni went on a limb for you, and you didn't want to go out there and help him. You let the limb break. That's an asshole move, guy. That's an asshole move. Oh, we're going to have real talk today. Look at Slager. He ain't dumb, Sills. He's ducking the question. That's lack of leadership. Immaturity. Grow the fuck up, kid. Being paid $50 million, like Brian Baldinger said. Prior to that game against the Bucs, you know what Baldy said? We're going to find out a lot about Hurts. We sure are. We have. Time gets tough. This guy didn't show up at the game or even after the game. Didn't defend anybody but him. All right. I don't have a problem with people's self-preservation. Jalen grabbing his own life preserver and no one else's. He ain't defending anybody but him. Hurt finger. Who cares? Hurt pride? Who cares? Sorry, kid. You deserve to get killed too. More so than ever. If Dak Prescott gets killed, you get killed. You got the bag of money. But let's go after Sirianni. You guys are looking for a scapegoat for your boy not playing well this year. Bad coordinator, okay? Bad coaching, okay? So Jalen's off the hook. Well, not really, but you know, he's accountable too. No, he's number one accountable. He's the player. No. It's the coaches and the coordinator, then Hurts. No, it's Hurts, the head coach, and the coordinator. That's the line of fire. If I'm executing anyone, that's who you're executing. Not the lesser of the three. Grow up. The absolute truth is that this is now in the owner's hands. This is in the owner's hands. Do I pivot? Do I stay the course? There's no around it. Personally, I think they're going to stay the course. Change the coordinators, get rid of the old weight, change the locker room around, and get new players. And keep the same philosophy. I don't really think they're firing anybody. But I'll play along here in a minute. I don't. Because Nick's going to navigate through it. And by the way, figure this out. If you fire Sirianni for shit you told him to do, that's an indictment also on you. Okay? They're sitting there going, how do we get out from under this? You see, if you're going to fire Sirianni, you've got to come up with a trick. You've got to trick him into it. Do you know how the Eagles tricked Doug into it? Simple. We want you to hire these coordinators. Doug said no. And they knew that would be the pushing point. I don't know if Nick has a pushing point. Because Nick was never hired with authority and autonomy anyway. That's what makes his fire a lot harder than Doug. They knew what they could trigger Doug with. Do you think Hurts will reconstruct his contract to me? No, I do not. Because the deal is already well done. There's no reason to restructure his contract. The cap hits are insanely great and team benefit. Jalen Hurts' structure of his contract is the best in the league at $50 million a year. I have no problem with the construction of the contract. Are you crazy? Daniel Jones' contract is a problem, not Jalen Hurts'. Jalen Hurts' contract is well done. It's actually a stroke of genius. No issues there. What are you going to do? What's the trick? How could they trick him like they tricked Doug into being fired? Hey, Doug, you know how you got Doug out of the building? You attacked his coordinators. You see, we've already seen them attack the coordinators, and it had no bearing because he lied about the Desai removal and all that bullshit he took from the top, and they told him to make the change. Get this, that move probably saved Nick Sirianni's job instead of getting him fired. Don't you guys are so over your rails and over your skis and how you perceive that organization. You don't think that move saved Nick Sirianni's job. As bad as it was, they told him to do that. Doug would never have done that. He would never have changed coordinators in week 12 or week 13, whatever it was. He would never have changed. Would a 10-2 team never happen? That move saved Sirianni autonomy in the meeting today. I did what you wanted. Why wouldn't it? You told me to do this. I did it, and it was a disaster. You're telling me you don't think that's a mulligan for him? Anybody in their right mind knows he didn't make that call. The owner and the GM did. That's your mulligan. That move alone probably saves him. All you have to do is walk in. Well, the defense got worse. This was your call. What's your response? Well, how come we couldn't make it work? You hired Patricia because you didn't believe Desai was the guy in the first place. Now we're starting to get adversarial here a little bit. But see, Nick doesn't have to say all this. You know why? The owner and the general manager already know this. Shit, Nick walks in with a muffin and a coffee. What are we talking about? The moves you made? Well, how come the coordinators didn't work? You elevated Brian Johnson. I didn't. Well, what about the defense? You're the one that made the move for Desai. Well, how come it fell apart? Well, bad coaching. We all have to be accountable for this. Nick Sirianni has a comeback for everything they can throw at him today because they did it. This is their implosion. It's not Nick's implosion. This team is so poorly coached. Do you guys happen to remember when I pointed out to you that there were 12 different new faces and new positions on your coaching staff? Half your coaching staff was changed out. You think that had any impact on the coaching and the way the team was coached this year? Yes or no? Brand new people and brand new elevated positions. You think that had anything to do with the way the team was prepared and the way the team looked compared to last year? No, probably not. Half your 50% of your coaches were changed. On a 24-man roster for coaches, 12 were elevated into new positions. No, right? If you changed 12 players on a roster, would that change the direction of your team? Well, why wouldn't it change the direction of your coaching philosophy if you change coaches and put new coaches in new elevated positions? And just because they were in different roles doesn't mean you're going to succeed in the role you're being put in. Ask Brian Johnson. He went from quarterback coach to OC. How'd that work? You think this is a simple fire because it's low hanging and it's easy and it's Nick. You see, Nick's the face of the firing and he's the face of the front office. Howie Roseman is the direction of the front office, but the face of the front office is the coach. He's got to wear this. The face of the NFL is the commissioner. The owners are the ones that make all the stupid decisions or the good decisions. And the commissioner's the one that falls on the sword. Nick is the guy that falls on the sword for bad and good decisions. And last year was good. This year's horrible. Ask yourself, where in the world and what reason would you fire Nick Sirianni for today? Bad coaching. You gave me bad assistants. You changed the entire roster of coaches. You elevated coordinators that weren't prepared. You're the ones that hired these guys. And in the season, you fired Desai. This is the owner, dude. This is no longer about the coach. This is no longer about the GM. This is about course direction. Are you going to stay the course, or are you going to have a course change? There's no other way around this. Those are your only two options. You have no other options. You fire Nick, you're getting Nick again, 2.0. You bring in one of those big name guys, Howie's job title and his definition in his job description has changed. No other way around it. They can't have another financial crisis like Wentz. There's no way possible you can make this same mistake twice. Yes, you can. You have to have a course change. If you want to save Jalen Hurts, okay, you bring in a quality coach. Or guess this, right now in the current path, Jalen Hurts will be Carson Wentz 2.0. And he can't and won't stop it because he doesn't have enough leadership skills to be able to come out of it. He's shaking his head, bitching about things, pointing to his finger, and people around him will not be qualified to help him get out of it. It's what it is. Sorry you don't like to hear that, but that's fact. Hurts is not overrated. He's not overrated. He's got a chance to be a really good ball player. Chance. 1 year doesn't make a career. 1 year doesn't make you a star. Told you that from day one. Do I think Jalen Hurts is a star? He's got star potential. Do I think he's a star? I do not. I never have. I think he's got intangible qualities that I like a lot about him. 17 games don't make you a star. And as a matter of fact, these last couple games, maybe it's because I've been rubbed the wrong way. The scheme affects the play. It does. It is on the coach, who, by the way, was a high school coach. He gave no hot routes for the quarterback against the blitz. That's true. I'm not going to dismiss that. Tone just goes, 1 year doesn't make you garbage either. No. Just makes you, I don't know who you are yet. Especially with 3 different years. Don't make you a star 1 year. And one bad year doesn't make it garbage, and I never said he was. When you're elite, you put great years in, and you show up in games that matter. Okay? You guys can defend the kid all you want. I'm not. I'm not defending anyone. Oh, I know you're not, Tone. But I hear everyone else. And by the way, one more time, and I do not ever have to quantify my takes to anybody, and I won't, and I don't care to, and I don't have to, but I will say this. Here's what I love. Since you gave him the money, and since you want him to be this is what the Eagles are working with. So I work with it too. Would I want him as my starting quarterback on my team? No. I've said that since day one, and I've never deviated. However, do I like him, how he handles himself personally? Yes. Where he came from, what he's done. But him handling himself in adversity. I'll tell you this, Jalen knows how to handle himself when things are going well. He doesn't know how to handle himself when things are going bad. What is Nick's answer to why the players laid down? You hired bad coaches. And we have players who didn't want to play. I'm sorry, but I disagree with people who think coaches have to be rah-rah guys. I do. You get a paycheck on Tuesdays. You're a professional There's a reason the word professional is in front of football player versus when you're in college. You're a professional. Act like it. Whether you're a 4-win team or you're a 14-win team, act like it all the time. If you've never collected a paycheck in the NFL or any professional football league, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Okay? You have no idea what I'm talking about. Coaches giving me rah-rah speeches. When I was with the Bucks, and I got $25,000 every Tuesday, direct deposited into my account. You know what? That's all the motivation I needed. I didn't need someone kicking my ass going, come on, Sills, let's give me the old New Rockney effort. Act like a pro, dude. Did you see their effort against the Buccaneers and the way they came out against the Giants? That's a professional problem in your locker room. My God almighty, I said this to you guys yesterday. It's a condescending comment that athletes don't know the difference between being motivated and what motivates them and what's important to them. If that game's not important to you, and that game that you played in against the Buccaneers is not important to you, I got the wrong guys in the room. From the coach on down. My God almighty, grow up and act like a man. If you don't know the difference between right and wrong, and you don't know the difference between what's important to you and not important to you, and you have to have somebody kick you in the ass, there's a problem. You know what I hear people go like this. Well, not everybody thinks like that. Well, there wasn't a problem with that last year. You had more pros in the room last year. I can sit here and listen to some of your belly aching, whining, crying, excuse ridden. Everybody in that building deserves to get their ass kicked from the owner on down to the quarterback. Stop giving people shade. You tell it what it is. The coach sucked. Quarterback sucked. Coordinator sucked. Players' leadership sucked. The leadership council failed. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, you failed as leaders. I don't need a coaching staff to motivate me. I need my teammates to rally around one another, and you never did. When your ship took on water, you let the ship sink. And if you do this, well, we didn't believe in our coach. Wrong crew. Howie put the wrong crew in the wrong boat. Happens. Sometimes you get the shell, sometimes you get the egg. You can make excuses all you want. You can, by the way, one thing's for sure. It's got nothing to do with me. You need to take that same, some of you need to take that same focus that I'm saying and aim it back at your team for laying down. Defending Nick? You guys are so stupid. Nick is an insignificant pawn in this. You fire Nick, you're getting the same Nick. It's just 2.0 Nick. Don't you get it? Aren't you tired of talking about the same shit over and over? The owner has to decide. Hire a veteran coach. Hire a veteran coach and have a course change. Or keep Nick and go status quo. It's the only options. There's no other option. You have no other choice. None. And if you hire Vrabel, it's an indictment that the owner blamed the GM. Remember that. Remember that. If you hire a Vrabel, look, Belichick's out. You're not getting him. Carroll's out. Vrabel's more in your price range. The fact that they did not stick with Swift and the running game after the first 2 plays of the game is coaching malpractice. He might as well be asking to get fired at that point. That may not have been the analytical approach. See, he thinks that was Nick Sirianni's game plan. The analytics department probably gave them the intel, which Frank Reich says they do for every game, and that wasn't the analytical approach they wanted for that Buck game. You're not getting it. Frank Reich on this program was texting me live, and I showed it to you. The analytics department gives the coaches the intel on how they're going to approach the game plan on a week-to-week basis. Front office meddling. Why are you refusing to believe that for a guy who won a Super Bowl for you? Seth couldn't believe it. I sent Seth that text. He couldn't believe it. Do I think Dallas keeps McCarthy? What's the point? Again, you're in the same position. Okay? By the way, here's a little bit of insight. The Philadelphia Eagles contacted the Tennessee Titans about a trade for Derrick Henry before the trading deadline. They offered him compensation. Them in Baltimore were trying to trade for Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry was about to be traded to either the Eagles or the Ravens prior to the trading deadline. But the deal fell through because the Titans, for whatever reason, didn't like the compensation. And now he's going to be a free agent. They get nothing. It's probably more of a kudos to the Titans for allowing him to go and be and do what he wants unless they're going to trade him. But the Eagles did make contact with the Titans to try to make a trade for Derrick Henry prior to the trading deadline. And by the way, okay, how about this? How many people think I just made that up? I'll give you some intel. Henry said it on a podcast. Name those 2 teams. So, Henry said it. Crazy. I believe that would have helped them a lot. So, let's do this. I've got 5 candidates for you that I think that will be in your ballpark. And by the way, we're going to do exit grades on your players and how I saw how they played. I'll say this to you. I'm going to play along here that they're going to fire him. Okay? And that they're going to replace him. And I'm going to stay in the room here that they're going to stay status quo with Howie maintaining the power and the power structure in the building. Okay? Here are the Big Sil's 5 candidates to replace Nick Sirianni as head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, Mike Missinelli will join us at 4:30. Tone will join us, as always, at 3:30. We'll go from 5 up. These are the guys that are in your MO. Okay? These are the guys that, in my opinion, are in your ballpark with the way that you operate. I'll tell you something that's really becoming more of something that you really see when you cover the Eagles. You know what that is? You're very predictable front office-wise and how you approach every game. The Eagles have to be the most predictable organization in the NFL. There's nothing unpredictable about them. They're like a cookie-cutter organization. Everything is done a certain way. I don't like linebackers. I don't like running backs. I'm not very good at drafting this position or that position. We don't like experienced head coaches. We like first-year wannabes. We like that. You're very predictable in every single thing you do. There's nothing where you go off the reservation on. Nothing. And quite frankly, it's been successful to a point, but it's not been successful enough. You're as dependable and reliable and predictable as any person and any organization I've ever seen. Here's who I picked for the 5 guys to replace Nick Sirianni that fit your MO. Joe Brady, 6-1 since he's taken over. Worked with Joe Burrow also, if you remember correctly, when he was at LSU, and helped Joe Burrow become what Joe Burrow is now and have one of the greatest seasons in the history of college football, and developed him into being the number 1 pick overall and helped that guy. And look what that guy is today. When healthy in Cincinnati, Joe Brady worked with him. And once Joe Brady got his hands on Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills like world beaters. And what a game that's going to be this week. Allen and Buffalo versus Mahomes. That's going to be must-see television. And Joe Brady working with Jalen Hurts. I want guys who know how to develop quarterbacks and turn them into superstars, not turn them into, well, Tyrod Taylor. Here's number 4. According to the NFL Player Association and everyone surrounding it, the hottest coach that's on the defensive side of the football is Mike Macdonald. Number 1 in scoring defense this year. He's 6th overall with the Baltimore Ravens. Worked in an organization like Baltimore with John Harbaugh. No structure, no scheme. He's a guy who's going to allow coaches to come in and be coaches. Now, again, you're talking about a guy who worked in the Raven organization and would have to walk into the Eagle organization with a guy like Mike Macdonald go along with how they're going to do business. That I don't know. Mike's going to want his own assistant coaches on defense. I don't know if they would be open to something like that. Okay? Number 3, Ben Johnson. The job that he has done with Jared Goff, they run the ball with balance. Look at the reclamation project in Jared Goff and what he's done for the Detroit Lions since he's gotten there. I'll tell you this, as much respect as I have and as much as I like what Sean McVay does in Los Angeles with the Rams, this guy, Ben Johnson, has absolutely turned around Jared Goff and the turnover issues that he had and the inconsistency that he had in Los Angeles. You know, what was one of the things that really aggravated Sean McVay about Goff was that he'd have a really great game. He'd throw for 358 yards. Then he'd turn around and throw for 58 yards. And what they've done is they've made a better balance of that. He's more of a balanced quarterback in Detroit. Now, I think he's got better weapons in Detroit than he did when he was in Los Angeles. And that includes Cooper Kupp. Because Cooper Kupp was a dude when he was there. He wasn't what Cooper Kupp is today. Cooper Kupp became Cooper Kupp with Matthew Stafford. Stafford's a great – let me say this to you about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is one of the best spinners of the ball in the history of the league. That guy has one of the greatest arms of all time. He can throw it. He can throw it, dude. I mean, that guy knows what he's doing. Okay? He does. I think Ben's done a nice job with Jared Goff. Frank Smith, OC, the Miami Dolphins, according to the National Football Players Association, there was a poll taken with the 1,700 current players that are in the league. And the guy who was voted the number one assistant coach in the National Football League is Frank Smith, the OC of the Miami Dolphins. He worked with McVay in Los Angeles. He worked his way up from the quality control guy all the way up into the current position that he has now down in Miami as the offensive coordinator. So he's worked around a guy in Sean McVay. So he knows how to create pass routes. He knows how to create offensive schemes to fit guys. So when you remember something, guys, you guys are looking at it probably like this. Damn, Sills, Frank Smith, Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald, Joe Brady. What about Belichick? That's not for you. That's not for you. Stop acting like you're going to be playing in that ballpark. You're not playing in that ballpark. That's not who you are. Even Chip Kelly was a non-NFL head coach. He's never hired an NFL head coach. Why are you doing that now? Course change or staying the course? What's he more likely to do? What do you think Jeffrey Lurie's more likely to do? Stay the course or course change? Coming off a Super Bowl season. And 11 wins this year. Ask yourself that. And be honest. Be honest. Ask yourself. Course change? Stay the course. You can't, you don't want to do it, do you? And if you fire Nick, it's one of these guys. You're not going to hire any of them guys. Mike Vrabel. They're more likely to stay the course. Even Tone begrudgingly has to say that. And more likely. You know what that sounds like to me? Tone wants to smack him. More likely to stay the course. That's actually a shitty answer, but it's true. I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that. And my number one guy is Bobby Slowick, Texans OC, 36 years of age. Could be an issue, but maybe right up the Eagles' alley. He worked with Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, and he's off the Shanahan tree. Mike Shanahan has actually worked with him. And look at the job that they have done down in Houston. I'll tell you something else. The guy who has to be the executive of the year, I don't know. Is it Nick Caserio in Houston? Is it Eric DeCosta in Baltimore? Jesus, criminy. Is it Gutekunst up in Green Bay? I mean, good night almighty, man. John Lynch riding the ship in San Francisco. Look at Luke. F no. Well, who do you want? It's interesting. Luke, who do you want the Eagles to hire? Watch this one. Luke, let me hear you. Who do you want to hire as head coach of the Eagles? You want to see dumbness at its highest? Watch what he says here. Brad Holmes, GM in Detroit. The good one there, Tone. Great one. Over the guy in Houston, though. I thought Houston win 3 games. I thought Houston win 3 games. 3 games. Brian Flores, the guy who called out Stephen Ross for fixing football games? Ben Johnson? I like the guy in here. If I had a pick, here, Bobby Slowick 1, Frank Smith, Dolphins OC 2, Ben Johnson 3, Lions, Mike McDonald, Ravens DC, defensive coordinator, Joe Brady 5, Bills OC, worked with Burrow at LSU with Orgeron, and also has been incredible with Josh Allen. I like Joe Brady. Joe Brady was also in Carolina a little bit. I think he may have been there with Cam, if I'm not mistaken. I thought Joe Brady was there in Carolina with Cam a little bit when he was there. Mike Tomlin, good for him. By the way, another media story made up. Mike Tomlin said in a press conference, he goes, I never told anyone I was leaving. I never told anyone I was thinking of retiring. You guys made that up, that he would want to go in a different direction. He goes, that was never the case. That's why he walked off that press conference. Media people making shit up. The Mike Tomlin hoax. It was the Mike Tomlin hoax. Hey, see, today, man, these guys don't have to be true. They don't give a shit. They'll just say anything. See, again, I'm not a journalist. Okay? I'm not a journalist or a reporter. And I say shit all the time. But I don't quantify myself as being a reporter or a journalist. I'm in broadcast media. That's plain and simple, and that's all I am. I'm not a reporter. Inside sources are the people I interview. All right. So those are the 5 that I would take a look at. But again, here, let me go here. Here, and I rank the jobs. By the way, these are the current jobs that are open now. Not potentially Philly or Dallas. Okay, so there could be 9. But here are the jobs, I've ranked them. And now that the New England job has been filled, that's off the list here. I've ranked the jobs. Here are the jobs. And Philadelphia, get this, is Philly a better job than the Dallas job if Mike McCarthy gets fired or Nick Sirianni? What's the difference? Front office meddling. I have no control in both places. Who's a better quarterback? I don't know. It's kind of a coin flip now. I don't know what a better job is. I think it's a lateral job. Look at this. Chris goes, Dallas is a circus, and you weren't this year? You're a circus right now. You're a circus. Okay? What's a better job, Dallas or Philly? I don't know. We got a lot of free agents. We're going to look at that as well. As a matter of fact, I predicted you win 5 games in 2 years. So I don't think Dallas is going to be much better in 2 years. I don't think both jobs are good. Actually, you're not trending in being a championship football team. What gave you that idea? Your play this year? I don't believe Philly has hit rock bottom yet. I got the Panthers. I think the Panthers right now are the worst job that's out there. I'm so aggravated at the fact that people and players are trying to play us like we don't see Sirianni's a boneheaded coach. The guy's a joke. We're not dumb. Marshall, I'll ask you one more time, and I'll go back to the 2021 season when I asked all of you this. When they took the play calling duties away from him, what was his job? Tone, you weren't doing the show yet. Xander was. Do you know what my topic was the next day when he gave the play calling up? My topic the next day was, what's Nick Sirianni's role now on the team if he's not the play caller? What's his role? He had no defining role. He never did. He never had say from day one. You guys missed that interview, or you refused to listen when he was at the Super Bowl during the press conferences, and he goes, shit, when I got the job as head coach of the Eagles, I had to introduce myself to 80% of the staff was already intact. That's all you needed to know. 8 out of the 10 coaches that were in the building, he had no conversation on who should be hired. What does that tell you? You parachuted into something that was ready-made. When you become a coach in Philly, you either coach their way or you're not coaching anyway. You can't bring your own mentality into an organization. Now I know why Vic Fangio didn't get the job. Vic wasn't going to work in that environment. No way. No way. A quality coach does not work in that environment. Now I know why Jude, they must have went at it with Jim Schwartz. They must have went at it with Jim Schwartz is an asshole. They must have went back and forth. Frank is a nice guy. Doug's a pretty good guy, but Jim Schwartz, he's an asshole. They must have went back and forth with that guy because that dude is not an easy guy to get around and be around. He's not an easy guy. I know that dude. And I'll tell you, man, he's abrasive. He's going to get in your ass. Okay? He that's not what that guy does. I mean, hey, see the way him and, what was it, Jim Harbaugh and him almost got into a fist fight in the middle of the field one game, right? When San Francisco was playing Detroit. Didn't those two almost get into a fist fight? Guy put a great defense together this year. They ran out of gas in the postseason. I can't believe they got as far as they did. And by the way, he was named the NFL Assistant Coach of the Year this year. Congratulations to you, Jim. The number one assistant coach in the National Football League this year was Jim Schwartz. Yeah, the Panther job's the shittiest job that's out there. I wouldn't want that job. David Tepper. The only way you get that, you know what you have to do when you get that David Tepper job, if you're the head coach? You got to make sure you have all kinds of fail-safes when you get fired. Think about this. When you get the Panther job, you got to worry about the end, not the beginning. So the salary is insignificant. The exit salaries are significant with him because you know why? He goes through coaches like Hugh Freeze went through hookers when he was at Auburn. You have to worry about the ending in that thing. I think that Titans job, you blow out Mike Vrabel because he went back to a part of the reason that you didn't like Mike Vrabel because he went back to a Patriots celebration. I mean, dude. Really? Or Hun? Or whatever? I'm not interested in that job. You don't do things very well there. You never really have. That commander's job is interesting. I don't know. Josh Harris runs his team like he runs the Sixers. He's a bullshit artist. Well, cheers to a shit season next year. Sales players are endorsing the cheerleader from the NovaCare. You're right. They're not making any changes. Joseph, if that's coming out of the NovaCare Center right now, that the players are starting to endorse Nick, they're not making a move. Status quo. Congratulations. They don't look at them as the issue. Coordinators are the fall guys. It's so predictable. Not firing that guy. Status quo. Congratulations on your one title in 30 years. Jesus Christ. Really? You have no leadership. Well, they lost the fans. Go, Marshall, don't do that. Remember something, Marshall. You're an Eagle. Those guys are renting parking spaces at the NovaCare Center. You're never not going to be an Eagle. You'll always be an Eagle fan. Through thick and thin. Don't be like them, front runners. Dude, the organization needs you now more than ever to be more vocal, actually. Video of X of Kelsey and Fletcher endorsing him. Fun fact, the Eagles ran 690 screenplays this year, and it amounted to minus 28 yards in total offense. Luke, that's very kind of you. Thank you, my friend. Pat does a great job. I hate Sirianni. Listen, Dirty D. That organization needs you guys to be more listen to me. They're going to keep him. They're going to keep him. They may keep Brian Johnson too. They may keep him. They're going to keep him. It's going around now you have the leadership of the guys coming out. That's systematically done by the PR department. They would never roll Kelsey out and anyone else out. And the leadership guys making videos. Did they by the way, is that being posted on the Philadelphia Eagle Twitter page? Because if it is, that's by design. If that is on the Twitter page of the Eagles, that Kelsey's endorsing them and other players are endorsing Nick Sirianni, then that's the organization starting a PR. So until you see that on the Twitter page or on a Facebook page of the team, be careful because, again, just because they're endorsing, he's walking out the door, Kelsey, maybe. That's the point of owning a team having no football sense, running the team via stats. I get it. Okay? So you got to be kind of careful. So until they put that on their Twitter page, then you should be careful there because it's not on, it's on their personal page. Yeah. Okay. So we got to hang in there first. It's pretty good. I get this. So who endorsed him? I think this is significant. Kelsey and who? Kelsey and who? Was it Lane? Who else? Where's Hurts? Fletcher and Kelsey have endorsed Sirianni. Where's Jalen? Fletcher. Where's Jalen? Where's Jalen Hurts? Is Jalen Hurts going to endorse him or not. I'm going to do you guys a favor right now. Frank. Let me ask Frank Reich a question. I'm asking. I don't think they should move on Nick Sirianni. I'm going to tell you who should be on the hot seat. Howie Roseman. We may have held on to some people too long, and then we paid some people that we shouldn't have paid. Donovan's dead on. But again, this is about course change. I just asked Frank Reich the question. I just asked Frank a question. We'll know here in a second, because I have an idea what's happening here. They're going to bring him back, and I would not be shocked if Frank comes in as OC. Somebody has got to know some serious shit sells. I'm waiting for somebody to leak something. For those guys to come out publicly and start saying stuff like that, I'm going to be with a lot of you guys. I'm going to wait until they put that on their official Twitter page or on their Facebook page, because at the end of the day here, what do you have here, Tone? This is Fletcher.
What is it to talk about, man? Because, man, he's a winner. He's a winning head coach. Do we have some bumps this year? Yeah, but every team, every organization, everybody goes through it. But we don't look at firing a man who, obviously has won 10-plus games 2 years in a row, that's took this organization to 3 playoff appearances 3 years in a row. That's a respect. Coach he's a good leader for this team. He does a really good job. Did we come up short? Yeah. Did things happen this year? Yeah. But you don't look at, or I don't discuss about, firing a man or, this man got a family. I don't discuss about anything about it. What is it to talk about, man? This man, he's a winner.
That's an important endorsement. I'm not diminishing that. That's an important endorsement. Because now when you have a leader like that you want back, I want him back. I want Fletcher Cox back. By the way, like I said, I've got exit grades for all the players. This is what happens today. When you walk in and you clean out your locker, you go see your position meeting, and you go and see your position coach. And what he'll do is he'll talk about your season. He'll talk about the grade. Okay, he'll talk about the grade that you probably got, and they'll have a frank to frank and a really good conversation with you on what you need to do in the offseason and how you need to prepare for the upcoming 24 season. They'll talk to you about getting ready for OTAs, mini camps, and all such things that you're going to need to do. And that's what you do. And that's kind of what we're going to do here in a little bit here, but I think that's love to have Fletch and BG one last season. I don't know about Brandon Graham. Okay? I don't. I don't know about Brandon Graham. By the way, I'm going to kind of, you know what, Tone? I'm going to continue. I'm going to keep rolling here because I want to get to this. And at the bottom, we'll talk to our friend Tone. Don't forget, Mike Missinelli will be with us. He'll be with us at 4:30. Your personal top 5 ideal OCDC coordinator. So as we can honestly confirm he's coming back. Joseph, I haven't looked at that yet. Okay, but again, you got to remember the personality of the organization. You're staying status quo. You're not making a move except for your coordinators. Remember what I told you when I was talking to Tone yesterday? They're going to look at it 3 years in a row, playoffs, 2 10-win seasons in a row, an NFC championship. I mean, that's how they looked at it. It was poor coordinators, okay, and a bad decision in game when it came to moving the side of DC. That's the only way they're looking at this. That's why Sirianni's back. Congratulations. Nick Sirianni is remaining as your head football coach. Again, no. It's really not about Nick. This is more about how, remember, this is Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's power stays intact. The owner said, Howie, now the Heat's. Fletcher likes the easy practices at this stage of his career and probably wants to come back. We love him, but that's problem. Go ahead and retire. Don't you guys get it here? Howie has more pressure on him now than Nick. Because the owner probably went, what should we do? He goes, I think we bring him back. Fire the coordinators. Clean house. Half the roster's free agents anyway. We're going to get a whole new group of guys in there. And we'll get a quality OC around Jalen. All the shit they should have did last year. Need to get a guy like Todd Monken. Absolutely. Absolutely. Fan slapped in the face. Hey, D. Marino. Yeah. No course change. Howie Roseman is going to be entrusted to build this up again. And once again, like Jeff Kerr said months ago, this is why you're not consistent. Nick Sirianni will be fired by week 8 next year. This is dumb. I'm going to make a prediction for you. Nick Sirianni will be fired by week 8 or whatever the bye is going to be next year for the Eagles. He'll be fired. This is, you gave him a reprieve on his execution. This is dumb. He's not a good head coach. Do you think we're all overreacting over this shit? Joseph, what do you think? Damn, dude. They're going to keep him. You got players endorsing him. Exit meeting guys are coming out now and people are saying these kind of things. You know, they had meetings. And those players have met. You know, first it goes like this. The head coach meets with the players. Then the owner meets with the coach. That's how it goes. It doesn't go to coach meets and then. No, the players go in. They meet with their position coach. And then they meet with the head coach. And then the head coach goes up and meets with the owner, and he comes down and meets with the assistant coaches on the year they had. Joseph goes, I can honestly say I see both sides. I do too. Because here, the most important aspect of this whole thing is what we said yesterday. Sirianni walks into a meeting with the owner and goes, you told me to do this. Seals, would you be surprised if A.J. Brown asked for a trade? Nope. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked. But remember something. Why would A.J. Brown want to trade from a place that gave him the $20 million? That's why he backed Sirianni in the organization. Why would you want a trade when those were the people that gave you the money you wanted when Tennessee didn't? Remember something. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. He's got equity in the building. Ownership likes him. He produces a ton. It's proven they can't play without him. Why would he want out? And he gets all the targets. He's the most targeted wide receiver in the NFL by one team. If we have a productive year, OC will get hired somewhere else. And we're back to this. Our coach brings no value. Never did. Never will. Never has. I'm not trading A.J. Brown when Jalen Hurts is... Dude, why in the world would you trade A.J. Brown? That's like trading DeAndre Hopkins away from Deshaun Watson in Houston. What's the point of that? I'm trying to put great, talented people around him that happens to be coordinators too. You just can't go like this. Well, shit, let's trade. I'm not trading A.J. Brown. That's not happening. By the way, that Queasy Watkins, that Olamide Zaccheaus kid, I like him. Olamide Zaccheaus, I like him. I think he's a good ball player. I wish they would have targeted him more. I think he works hard. I think he blocks in the run game. I like him. Get rid of that Queasy Watkins guy. Dude, he's squirmish. Really, he's like, he talks bigger shit than he is. He's got a little man complex. Yeah, dude, that's right, Pickin. Guy makes $25 million. Why the hell would I want out of Philly? And I'm giving you the numbers. And Hurts needs me. Dude, he's got a ton of leverage. Really? How do you do without me when I'm out there? You watch a Giant game? Do you watch a Buck game? How'd that thing look? It looked like chaos. Why in the world would I not want A.J. Brown back? Why? Because he's an asshole? I don't care. Dude, you give me 1,700 yards every year and 100 catches, and you're an asshole? I don't care. That's what you guys never got about Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is an asshole. 1,400 yards and 17 touchdowns. Helped you go to a Super Bowl, but he's an asshole. Who cares? That's the least significant part of this. If a guy's a good dude or an asshole, can he play? Personalities, love affairs are dumb. Do you produce? And do you help us win? Anything else doesn't matter. Imagine Brian Johnson gets a head coaching job and Frank returns. Hey, man, listen, I hope Brian Johnson gets an opportunity to be a coach somewhere. Okay? He just didn't do a good job here. It was too much one-on-one shit. But then again, man, you see, Frank knows how to get around them analytic guys. That's why Frank's a great. You know what? I don't know if Frank is a good coach for Jalen, but I do know this. He'll know how to get around that game plan. And do you know what asset that Frank Reich will be? Do you know the asset that Frank Reich will be for Nick if he gets that job? Do you know? He'll know how to get around that front office better. He totally will know how to get around that front office better. Yeah, they're going to keep his ass. Unless something stupid goes sideways in that meeting this afternoon. Okay? Sirianni's just a company man. What made you think he wasn't from the beginning? Frank would save Nick's job. He would. Guys, you have to go back and watch the very first interview. Frank Reich was, when he came on this show, you know what he gave the advice for Nick in taking the job? Do you guys remember? He said, listen, if you want that job, it's a very hands-on analytics and front office. If you're not willing to handle that and handle times when you're going to be frustrated by it, this is not a job for you. But if you can handle it and you understand the dynamics, didn't you understand why when I said this to you guys in 2021, remember when I said after the 2-5 start and they took the play calling duties away, what did I say to you? Wow. Front office came in. They like him. They want to keep him. Theoretically, they saved his job because he said, okay, what coach have you ever seen in your life in a first-year situation who's known as a play caller have that dynamic taken away from them within a month and a half of the year of him being a head coach and saying, okay, that right there saved his job there. That was job saving one. Right now, in my opinion, the reason that Frank hasn't responded back to me, I think they've reached out to Frank Reich. And I think they want to bring Frank in as the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that that dynamic will save him. Then they'll bring in a quality coordinator. Al Harris, DC, Frank, OC, personally my choices. You bring Frank Reich back in. Again, remember something about Frank. You're not asking Frank to be the head coach, but he knows the organization. The organization loves him. Loves him. I'm making a prediction. Now, again, there's a financial thing in this. Frank's getting a lot of money in a contract from the Carolina Panthers owner, David Tepper. I don't know how that dynamic works. Okay? I don't. You know, Frank always responds to me. We've been friends for 45. I've known Frank Reich since I was 16 years old. We've been friends since I was 16, 17 years old. Okay? And he always responds. I think there's a big dynamic. You know, they could be asking Frank a lot of advice right now because they value his opinion. So there's got to be money issues here because, again, I don't know how that works. From what I understand with contracts and structuring of contracts, if you've been fired from an NFL job, if the Eagles hire him at $3 million to be an offensive coordinator in Philly, and he was making $7 million, $3 million goes into that money that Tepper gives him, which means Tepper would only have to owe him $4 million. So I think it goes down to that kind of prospect. And you would have to work through the finances of the contract that he's currently under. And if he takes a job, does that nullify the deal in Carolina? Because if it did, Frank's not going to take that job. Now, before I bring Tone on, don't forget Mike Missanelli at 4:30. Course change or status quo? Those are your only options. There's no other option. And like I said, Hiring Vrabel and them guys, stop it. That means Howie's fired. Or his role's redefined. It's not happening. Harris is an ex-Eagle. Spring Tonin, which could be a very interesting day still to come.
Big sales, big sales, big sales. How you feeling today, sir?
Really great. I mean,
same here. Same here.
Because there's clarity in this right here.
Yeah, and also
do one or two things.
Yeah, and also for me, I understand obviously as Eagles fans, this is a turbulent time. No one wants to be in this kind of position, right? But for me at least, I don't know. All of this is so fascinating to me. I'm intrigued by it. I'm entertained by it. Again, no one wants to lose. No one wants to have to think about firing a head coach, but I'm loving all this right now. Just from a pure case study standpoint, from a pure analytical, just breaking down the nuances, the dynamics, the relationships. I'm really fascinated about all of this that's transpiring right now, even though the Eagles are on the receiver end of it.
Does it make sense to bring Frank Reich in?
Yeah, it would. It would actually bringing Frank Reich in would soften the blow that Nick Sirianni is losing more power than he's gaining. So bringing him in would soften the blow. But you said something earlier, right? That I kind of want to key in on it, and I think it comes full circle. Assuming Nick Sirianni gets fired, right? You mentioned the 5 guys that are more likely to get the job, or 5 guys that are better fits, right? And what were those 5 guys again? If you
Bobby Slowick from the Houston Texans, Frank Smith, Dolphins OC, Ben Johnson, Lions OC, Mike McDonald, Ravens defensive coordinator, and Joe Brady, Bills OC.
And here's the thing, right, that makes me nervous about all those guys. All those guys are doing amazing work where they are, and where they are, they're allowed to do their work. They're allowed to call offense the way they see fit. My fear is, let's say you do move on from Nick Sirianni and you do bring in one of those guys, right? My fear is, will those guys be allowed to do what they've been doing, or will the Philadelphia Eagles force them to become something else? Because they are prone to hiring or giving guys money and asking them to do something completely different than how they got the money in the first place, a la Jalen Hurts, a la Hassan Reddick over the past several weeks. Nick Sirianni, he's a West Coast guy, right? But he's asked to maneuver around Jalen Hurts' skill set. And obviously Shane Steichen was the real brainchild behind that. But again, my fear is that whoever they do bring in to replace him, even if it does fall under their category of an inexperienced guy, my fear is whatever made that guy great, they won't allow him to be great in Philadelphia.
Okay. Ask yourself this then.
Right.
I believe, and if they're in the process of at least, how about this? They may not change course direction, but they may want to modify some stuff. And
okay.
By modifying, that's not a direct admission that you failed when you're modifying. So remember something. The public perception for them is important, not to look like they failed or panicked. It's more about, hey, okay, maybe we had a couple bumps and bruises here. They can always quantify the last 2 years. They've won 25 games, da-da-da-da-da-da. So for me, I think they at least have to modify this. There's going to be a ton of changes on defense, which means you can change the scheme up. Also on offense, are you going to allow, like you said, an offensive coordinator to come in and be more of a hands-on guy on being able to help Jalen Hurts develop into the quarterback that he was?
Because that has to be the priority, right? Jalen Hurts' development has to be priority number 1.
It's your biggest investment.
Correct.
And it's the only way you're going to win.
Exactly.
And so to me, they can modify by here's what you can't do that you did last year. You can't hire 2 coordinators and have them come in and coordinate someone else's schemes.
Correct. I think that was their biggest downfall. It has been their biggest downfall. You bring someone in, let them do their job or do what they do well.
It back with the same systems, Tone, just with different coordinators, and it wasn't.
It don't work that way. It doesn't work that way, and they should be smarter than that. nothing ever works that way. If I write a cookbook and I give you all the ingredients to make my cookbook happen, are you really going to make the dishes the same way I made them? That doesn't make sense. So it doesn't matter if you give me the same playbook, you give me the same personnel, put me in the same place, time, whatever it is, it doesn't mean a thing. Play calling, game plan, there's a feel that's involved. And clearly there was a disconnect between that and player production.
How about this, man? My wife made my grandmother's meatballs for the first time. They were like cannonballs.
Be careful, be careful.
Hey,
be careful.
She goes, no, now they're spectacular. And she goes like, I did everything your grandmother told me to do. And I'm like, did you put the egg in? What egg?
Oh.
And she went, and my grandmother started laughing. And I go,
the egg holds it together.
Yeah. And she goes like this, you forgot the egg? The egg's important.
Very important.
I forgot the egg. And then you go like this. You see? There were things that were forgotten in that game plan approach, that in the cook and in the cooking of it, there were just things that were missing, that Shane Steichen had sprinkled in some seasoning here, some seasoning there, some thought process for Jalen to think about this, for doing it. Dude, being a game plan, in-game offensive or defensive coordinator is nothing to do with analytics. It has everything to do with feel of the game, the intel you have, the players that you believe in, what a player's strength and weaknesses is. You have to know all of that. And if you just parachute Matt Patricia into something or Sean Desai into someone else's system, for you to think that you're going to get the same result is insanity.
You just said something that really just piqued my interest. One of the biggest roles of a coordinator is knowing your players' strengths and weaknesses. And I think the biggest thing that stood out last year was Shane Steichen did an amazing job of inflating Jalen Hurts' strengths and tucking away his weaknesses.
Completely.
And I believe this year, we didn't really see much of that. I feel like we saw this coaching staff kind of deviating away from his strengths, and it over accentuated his weaknesses.
Completely.
And I think that's the main difference.
They brought the weaknesses out this year. Last year, they hit them.
And guess what? I feel like that's your job. I feel like every player has a weakness, right? Every player.
Everyone.
But the coach's job is to do whatever they can to manipulate the game in such a way where your weaknesses are not the reason you lose, right? So, again, all of this is so fascinating because, okay, let's say they do keep Nick, right? And they do change the coordinators up. Eventually, and depending on those coordinators, they may have higher aspirations. So if you only have confidence in Nick to a point, are you just going to keep shuffling coordinators every 2 or 3 years? Because you're going to be back to square one. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
well, that's why Jeff Kerr's comment. But that's why Jeff Kerr's comment comes back to haunt the Eagles every year. The reason they don't have sustained success is because they continue to do the same madness all the time.
So wouldn't that mean that they should move on from him?
Yes.
But the question is, will they?
Course change.
And we're back to your original point. Course change or status quo?
There's no other way around that. And like I said, because they're going to stay status quo, it seems. I think I'd be fired. Get this. When they bring him back right now, my opinion, he's a lame duck coach.
Yes. And also, to your point about Frank Reich, he may be the best coordinator for Nick, and this is the reason why.
That would change the dynamic in the locker room if Frank
immediately. Frank has had 2 head coaching opportunities, Indianapolis and Carolina. Typically, when you make it through the ringer like that, the odds of you getting another head coaching job is very, very, very slim. So maybe because of where Frank is in his career, if you bring him in as the OC, that can guarantee you some longevity and some stability at the position. Is that fair?
And the Eagles love him. And remember something, Frank is working for David Tepper and a guy who reportedly now, and this is not my report, had an OD in December, and Jim Irsay. I mean, I don't know about you, Tone, but that's kind of a really crazy environment to be a head football coach at Indianapolis when you got issues when your owner who can't control his own demons and his own issues in his life, and you're supposed to coaching that. I can't believe Shane, the job that he's done this year. Good kudos to him. But let's see how that plays out in a couple of years for him. So there's a lot of determinant factors around Frank with the two shitty owners that he's had to work with. And maybe I am making an excuse for my Frank because I know the kind of coach he is. And I know who he is. And I tell you, like I said, you bring him in the organization. And one thing he can help Nick with, Nick, let me tell you something. You know what these guys are thinking about you right now? Let me tell you how you get around this. Look, because you know who the buffer was between Howie and Doug. It was Frank. Frank was the buffer. Don't you think there's coincides with this? The relationship with Doug and Howie went south when Frank left.
Okay. So you bring let's
Am I wrong?
No. I don't think you're wrong at all. Let's really work this out. So let's say Frank is brought in for an interview. They decide that, okay, he's the guy. It's fair to say, and I think we mentioned this earlier, but it's fair to say because of his relationship with Nick, because we've already come to the conclusion, if Nick is going to be here for the foreseeable future, he's not picking his staff. It's already laid out. So typically coaches, when you rob them of power like that doesn't sit well with them. But depending on who you hire, that can soften the blow. Is that fair?
Because of, get this, Frank's not going to come in with a backstabbing mentality of trying to take his job from him. Right. That's not going to be Frank. Frank's coming in. If you hired a coordinator right now, you would know this. If you hired an experienced coordinator, you know what he's thinking? Well, that guy's out of here in week 8, and I'm going to take his job. And I'm going to show. And Frank's not going to be that. Okay? Frank is going to be more of an asset to him and an ally to him. And on top of that, ownership and the GM are going to feel he's an asset to them because you know why? They went through rocky times with Doug. They've got a history of going through rocky times together. And this is a rocky time. It's not so much that Frank's going to come in here and redefine who Jalen Hurts is. Right. He's going to redefine who Nick Sirianni is.
That's a good point. I'm really fascinated to see how that pans out. Another thing I want to broach with you is, we've been going back and forth and we're having conversations about, accountability and, players showing up and doing their job, right? And, me personally, I've always been back and forth between those two competing ideas of players, show the hell up, do your job, you get a paycheck. We all get paychecks. We all got to show up regardless of the circumstance. Do your damn job. I've been going back and forth between that and, well, damn, these coaches, they're not responding to these guys. They can't get them ready. And I've been going back and forth between those thoughts for this reason. That building is filled with, I understand they had maybe some more pros last year, but they still have a lot of pros in that building. Guys that have been in the league for a long time, guys that have success, guys who were Pro Bowlers, all pro, sprinkled around that roster. There is some real leadership on that team. So that's why I say to myself, or I ask myself, how did this team lose themselves in the midst of all this chaos when you have so much talent and experience and pedigree sprinkled in there? It's so strange for a team that's built like this to fall and lack the accountability that they have. And I'm always torn between putting the players' accountability first or the coach's accountability first. Sills, I need you to help me navigate.
Okay. And by the way, before I answer that, Dez goes like this. Who would want to come in here and play and be a coordinator in here? You pay me $10 million to come and play. That's a stupid comment. Not Dez. I don't mean that at you like that. But when you give me a paycheck for $5 million, who'd want to come and play here? Give me the money and I'll come and play. Let's not talk like these guys are children again. You give me $5 million or $10 million to play a position, I'm going to come play for you.
Period.
This is professional. There's a reason the word pro is in front of that. Pro ball means money. And I'm going to tell you to that point, every building is different.
Mhm.
You walk into Belichick's building. I talk to Bill. I walk into the Charger building. The coach has got some say, but there's management has a lot of say. You walk into Philly, a lot of management decisions. Coach is part of that whole dynamic. They've got a structure. Baltimore, it's John Harbaugh. Baltimore and Pittsburgh operate a lot alike. They work with the coach. Okay? They work with them. Okay? So every time a player goes to a particular place, okay, I got you, Gillespie. I see it. I'll get to that in a minute. When a player signs with a company and he goes into it, and you know the dynamic in that building, and you see Nick Sirianni, and you have Sirianni as your head coach, and you walk in there, and you know he's not the one putting the game plan together. He is the one executing it on game day with you. So basically, Nick Sirianni's another player. You don't hate Nick Sirianni. That's why those guys like him. But at the end of the day, he really doesn't have any say in what's going on in the building. The same way that Mike McCarthy has very little say in the direction of the Dallas Cowboys. You know that as a player walking in. So what's the only thing you can control? My play, my effort, how I get paid, how I'm seen on film. Remember, you're constantly being evaluated. The eye in the sky doesn't lie. And when you're putting shitty tape on tape, 31 other teams see that as well. So if you're putting bad tape out there because you're making an excuse that your coach didn't motivate you, sorry, man. 31 other general managers are going to say that's a you issue. That's not an organizational issue. Now, what happens when players stop playing? It's because of this, Tone. You keep rowing me out to sea with no land in sight. Eventually, you're going to stop rowing. And so that's what happened after week 13 and the 49er game. They knew there was no end in sight. Getting to the Super Bowl a year ago actually was one of the most damaging things to the 2023 team. You know why? After the 49er game, they realized it. We're not a championship team. And
but how do you balance those two truths, right? How do you balance those two truths?
It becomes a wave.
Yes, these guys were clearly being led astray, but also you're a pro. Show the hell up. How do you balance those truths?
It's very mind-numbing.
You played before. You've been in situations.
Mind-fucking. It is, because you're a pro. You get caught up in losing like you do winning, and I'm not making excuses for those guys, but the success, you couldn't have any different of approaches from a year ago to this year. The massive amount of winning, the massive amount of losing at the end. All that shit goes in waves, dude. And it Tone, it hits you like a tidal wave. And I'm telling you, it goes like this. Honest to God. I looked up 4-2. I looked up again. We were 4-8. I looked up in a game. I had 9 minuses. Bang, 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 bang. And you're like, fuck. That game hits you so fast.
To your point.
It comes so quick.
To your point, what the Eagles don't realize.
You can't stop from drowning.
Yes. And to your point, I don't think the Eagles have realized when you draft players from these big programs, it's a gift and a curse. You want to know why? Because, yes, they know how to win. They come from winning programs. They care about winning. But what happens when things aren't going their way? Do they know how to lose? And I don't mean like losing as a goal, but do they know how to handle rough waters? Jordan Davis and those boys, the Georgia boys, they're used to winning every game. Even people don't talk about this much, but Jalen Hurts, he's only lost, 2 or 3 college games in his career. He's used to winning. Devontae Smith, used to winning. Most of these guys are used to winning. So, when you said earlier about Jalen Hurts having to navigate these rough waters and being a front runner, it's not an asinine statement, because when you're so used to winning and then you start losing and you can't find a way to lead your team out of it, people are going to have questions about you, and it's legitimate.
Let me ask you one thing about Hurts here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. and you tell me, and and this is where I think he is in his young development.
Right.
And what you're saying, it goes along with what you're saying, so I'm not interrupting you here.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
It goes along with it. Would you not agree that Jalen Hurts has worked so hard at changing a narrative of himself so much, being benched at Bama, having to transfer, second-round draft choice with the Eagles, all the naysayers, all this and that. Can he do it? Can he not do it? He's had to focus so much on changing a narrative of himself that the one thing he did not work on was being a team leader when things were down, because he's you become so hyper-focused, Tone, on just making yourself better. You can't be worrying about other people around you until you make yourself better.
Right.
You have to make yourself better. Dude, that guy went into the 22 season with the Eagles with 2 draft choices in the first round because people thought they were going to draft a quarterback. This is only 18 months ago that they didn't even think he was the guy. So he had worked so hard to get to that point. And then when things started going south, Jalen doesn't really know how to navigate rough waters.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows personally how to, but he doesn't know how to take people with him in the lifeboat.
Because he's always been
learn how to get people in the lifeboat with him.
This is interesting.
On helping those guys navigate through tough times when the boat sank and you have to pick up people in your lifeboat. He only has one lifeboat, him.
You said something very interesting. The fact that because of everything he's had to endure, solo as an individual, you can get wrapped up in that because think about it. In Alabama, everybody turned their back on you.
Absolutely.
You transfer to Oklahoma, people calling you a quitter because you left Alabama and you went to Oklahoma. You're a runner up in the Heisman. People don't think you can make it in the league. So he's been constantly hyper focused.
They thought you were getting quarterback when he got to the league.
And people and he's been trying so hard to improve self, right? And now being this franchise quarterback, which is an entirely new role than he's ever experienced in life. This is probably the most committed an organization or a program has ever been to him. And it's a different level of responsibility. And when we have these conversations, Eagles fans, I want you guys to, to roll with us and try to have the conversation critically and not think we're trying to undercut or disrespect the young man. We're trying to have a honest and vulnerable conversation about leadership, handling responsibility, and expectation. And with that contract, a lot of expectations came with it. And you don't expect the rough waters to come, but when they do, you damn sure better know how to handle it. And I believe everybody
handled it poorly.
I believe you have to say he handled it poorly. If anybody says Jalen Hurts handled these past 7 games perfectly, they're a damn lie.
How about
he did not handle these past 7 games perfect. He was not flawless. He was not.
Look at what Jermaine says. He goes, Hurts is a company man. Hey, Jermaine, name me a quarterback in the National Football League that's not a company man.
You paying them $50 million, they're a company man.
You name me one quarterback who's not a company man.
Aaron Rodgers, probably.
I don't know. He took a pay cut.
Sure did.
He took a pay cut. I mean,
he
handed back $90 million.
Sure did.
Okay, so I mean, if that's not a company guy there, Tone,
I don't know what it is,
man. Okay, it's not a guy in the league that's not a company man. Baker Mayfield's a company man. Every guy that's in the league is a company guy. What quarterback have you seen over the last couple years hold out?
If you're a quarterback, 9 times out of 10, you have to be a company man. You have to be. You're the franchise quarterback. You're the company man.
It's kind of a compliment because you get this. At least, see, here's my problem that I see the last 7 weeks with Hurts' leadership. Dude, you got a chair at the board of directors table and you ain't voicing your opinion on how the company should go. And you're one of the only dudes in the locker room that got a chair at the head of the company meetings. And you're on the board of directors. And you don't use your power at all. And you're allowing Fletcher Cox and you're allowing all these other guys, Jason Kelsey, to give endorsements on your coach, and you're nowhere to be seen. Hoss, Jesus criminy, man. I mean, okay, so you don't like Nick. Or you didn't like Nick last year when he went to the Super Bowl? Or has this been a 2-year thing that you haven't liked him?
Now, hold on. Now, hold on. This is where things get real interesting because if we notice, Hurts has always had to be the adult in the room when it came to Nick Sirianni. Think about that Super Bowl. Do you remember when I think they were reviewing a play and Hurts was standing next to Sirianni? And I think Sirianni flipped off somebody, or he was gesturing somebody across the field, and Hurts looked at him like, "Man, put your arm down." You know what I'm saying? What are you doing? It seems like, and remember, Steichen was in the building. You remember how you said Frank was the buffer between Howie and Doug?
Yeah.
I think Steichen was the buffer between Nick and Hurts.
Okay.
And then you remove that. Now they have to deal with each other in a different capacity, right? So I think, and this goes back to why I think Hurts hasn't jumped out the window for Sirianni. I don't believe he believes Sirianni is the guy to take him over the top. It's obvious he doesn't believe that.
He hates the rah-rah stuff and all that shit.
I think he hates that shit too.
I think it's gimmick too, man.
Right. And when you have a guy like that, I think, especially the way Hurts carries himself, he's probably like, how can I follow this guy?
I'm not. Hey, man, you know what's awesome about you fans, you Philly fans, and you included? Guys are throwing popcorn at the dude down in Tampa. Hey, it's not even in your own fucking building.
Did you
You're
see
at
that?
Raymond James, and and a Philly Eagle fan is throwing popcorn at him. You motherfucker. You have this whole season up. You have this whole season up. You got a Philly fan down in Tampa throwing popcorn at Nick Sirianni. Come on, dog. That is not. Hey, you can't get any better than that. When you're talking, I told you. Can you imagine if he had coached? Can you imagine if he had coached at home? That Buck loss that they would have threw at him.
Hold on, real quick. This is what I was talking about right here. That Super Bowl. He looks at him like, bro, what are you doing? Like, come on, man. And so that was that. And then
that's actually embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. And let me take it a step further with the popcorn.
Yeah, let me see the popcorn.
Oh my God. I'm gonna find it.
So you guys threw popcorn on your coach. Hey, man. Not even in your own building. Look at this guy. He's got a Reddick jersey on too.
Oh, look at this.
Nick, you're done, Nick. You're done, Nick. You're done.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I didn't hear that. Let me hear that again.
Nick, you're done, Nick. You're done, Nick. You're done. You're fucking done, Nick.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
And they went and got him.
Nick, you're done, Nick. You're done, Nick. You're done. You're fucking done, Nick.
Are you sure that's not me? Dude.
Yo. Oh my God. You can tell he's not from that area. He just flew out for the game because he's like, I'm not going back to Raymond James Stadium again. Who cares? Like,
boy, man, I'll tell you one thing about Philly, man. Those Philly fans know how to throw the F-bomb around. You're fucking done, Nick.
Yo, I love my city. The way we utilize curse, the East Coast, whole East Coast, the way we curse, it's an art form with us.
Champions. Hey, champion F-bomb throwers.
Oh my God.
Hey, he's down in Tampa throwing popcorn at the guy, dropping F-bombs. You're done.
You're done.
You're done, Nick.
You're done.
Dude, can you imagine what would have happened to him at Lincoln Financial, man? He would have been undressed.
Oh my God. Thank God they were on the road.
Thank God Big Don was with him.
Yo, if they were home, let's be real. If they were home.
Oh God, crushed.
How would that have looked?
Oh, terrible. Terrible. I want to do something with you here.
Okay, let's do it.
Today's exit meeting day, right?
Sure is.
Today's exit meeting day for the players. And I wrote down what every player is going to hear from their coaches today. Look at Tone scanning the wire, making sure Nick ain't been blown out yet. This guy's good. This guy's watching. Like, hey, it's like watching for the Pope there in Rome, man. When they get the smoke coming out of the thing there with all the Cardinals. We have smoke. We have a decision on Nicholas Sirianni. So I think you're going to hear this. And I wrote down the players, and I wrote down a handful of these players here. And I'm going to start with the offensive side, and I'm going to start with Hurts. And here's my exit grades for all your players.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback Jalen Hurts, I gave him a C. He was average all year. It ended horrifically. I thought he had moments. I thought he played well. The turnovers were insane bad. And here, there were times he played well, but you know what overshadowed it? His lack of leadership at the end and his turnovers is why I gave him an average grade. And I would probably go more towards C+, but I would say that to me, the intangible things of the turnovers and lack of leadership at the end of his team, and I'll modify it. I'll say C+, but I can't go any higher than that.
It's funny you say that because I had him at B- before the playoffs, right? I had him at B- when the season ended. That playoff performance dropped him to a C+ for me. So yeah, I'm in agreement with everything that you've said. He put up a C+, effort this year. But no, let me not say effort. He put up a C+ performance this year.
Performance. I mean, the Giants and the Bucks,
inexcusable
body language. Maybe that affected me more too, and how I looked at him.
Yeah, and you know what? That Tampa game
affected me.
That Tampa game, I've never been more annoyed.
Yeah,
with Jalen Hurts' body language.
Word, annoyed.
I've never been, and I don't get annoyed. I'm very lenient with Jalen Hurts because I like him. Seriously,
it's annoyed. That's the word. That's the word, Tone. I was annoyed. He
bothered me tremendously on Monday night. He bothered me.
What did you make that Derrick Henry made some comments that two playoff teams, and everyone was saying Baltimore and the Philadelphia Eagles were the two teams that were in the mix on trying to get a compensation package with Tennessee, but Tennessee balked at it, didn't want, and they stood pat in Tennessee that Henry could have been an Eagle, and the Eagles were trying to get him.
Wow. So basically what you're saying is Tennessee blocked them.
Well, they decided not to go forward with either Baltimore's deal or the Eagles deal.
But why? They were going to lose them for nothing. Why not? It makes no sense.
But I think it does make sense, and I'll tell you why. Okay. I think they respect him enough to be able to have him and make his own call. Like remember when Tom Kraft said that teams were calling about potentially trading for Belichick,
right?
And you know what they said? We're not going to do that. I don't want to sell him off as an asset. Let him go out and, go his own way. And I think that's more of a respect thing too, Tone.
Okay.
Than trading him to what? The Jets? You know what I'm saying? I agree with you, Talk with Tour. I agree. Here's what I said about DeAndre Swift. I gave him a B. I think he had a very good year. I just think that they really didn't know how to utilize him in the second half of the season.
Agreed.
And it was the coordinator's responsibility to figure out how to use him. I think he had a really good year, but I thought that the coordinator failed him in many ways of not being out of or not figuring out how to use him in critical moments when they needed him in game situations. But for the player himself, I think he made himself a lot of money.
Agreed. I think he has as well. He will not be back here next year, unfortunately, because me personally, my perfect scenario would have been find a way to bring Swift back and then draft a young power back with fresh legs and combo that. And because I think they need Jeff Kerr brought up a very interesting stat. He said the Philadelphia Eagles were at the bottom of the league in terms of yards after contact, right? And they were at the top of the league of yards before contact. So that tells me the offensive line is doing their job.
Last in the league.
Right. That tells me the offensive line is doing their job. But the moment you put hands and feet on the running back, they go to the ground. So I think they need some more. They need some more tread back there. They need a.
They need to look like Detroit.
They need it. Yeah, they need an 18-wheeler back there. They need a guy that's going to bring the power, break those tackles, extend those extend those runs. But yeah, Swift had a good year, man. He had a career year in terms of health. He had a good, the only time he missed the game was when he caught a cold. So
no, I'm not disappointed in any way whatsoever. For
I feel
a fourth-round pick.
Yeah, I feel like he maximized the opportunities they gave him. Does that make sense?
But I don't feel we maximized him.
Agreed. That's exactly what it is.
Okay?
I agree 100%.
This was a fourth-round trade pick.
Yes, and you got over 1,000 yards out of him, man.
You get about 1,400 yards of total offense.
Yeah, right. 1,400 yards, and how many touchdowns did he have on this year? 4 or 5? I don't know, but you could have got more out of him. They didn't use him well.
Here's what I said about A.J. Brown. I gave him a B+ because I thought down the stretch, the last 4 games,
he disappeared.
I thought it kind of vaporized a little bit for him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the NFL started catching up with how they were targeting him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that his performance, and then he started getting nicked up and banged up a little bit. But again, here's my problem with I don't know if I have a problem with AJ because, again, if he's an asshole, I don't care really. You give me 1,700 yards and 100 catches, and you keep putting the numbers up, and it's obvious that he's an integral part in the development of Jalen Hurts. I'm not messing with that dynamic right now, and he's worth the money that I'm paying him. Now, is he quirky? I don't care. Does he open his mouth? I don't care. 1,700 yards, 100 catches, 10 touchdowns. Jesus Christ, guy. I mean, now I think this comes back to coaching, though, and how to use him. They needed to use him more in times as a decoy, and they didn't want to do that because, you have another guy on the other side who's a total pro as well. You just isolated 35% of the time in targets went to him. So most of any wide receiver in the league. You become predictable so much with that. So, again, I thought it was coaching that hurt him down the end and him being nicked up.
Yeah. I would probably give him an A-. But he gets the A. The minus comes in for all the reasons you said. The guy was a second-team All-Pro. Should have been first-team, but nonetheless, he was second-team All-Pro. 2 years back-to-back, over 1,400 yards, 7+ touchdowns. Over broke the team record for receptions. The record set by Smitty last year. I got to give him an A-. But I do agree. Towards the end, he tailed off. But I don't think it was his doing. I think it was more so coaching.
I think it was nicked up and
he got nicked up a little bit. So yeah, I'll probably give him an A-. But I'm not going to argue against your grade either. Though your grade is pretty fair too.
I gave Devontae Smith an A, best pro on the team. I mean, anytime he was called on, he was there. Mm-hmm. Anytime that was leadership needed, he was there. Mm-hmm. Anytime that you needed a play, he was there. He never bitches. He never cries. He's a leader, ready-made pro. Reminds me of Marvin Harrison. Of all the players on the team, he's the guy that you can always rely on. And his nickname should be O Reliable because he's constantly there. And in my opinion, arguably my favorite Philadelphia Eagle in body, mind, spirit, and the way he plays the game. He is a true champion.
Definitely. The thing about Devontae Smith is you said something very key. He came ready-made, and not often can you draft a guy that's that part. Not often do you draft a guy who's not just ready-made physically, but he's also ready-made mentally. And, a lot of people give Howie Roseman a lot of credit for Devontae Smith, and I don't, because in my humble opinion, it was a no-brainer. You drafting a guy that's mature, ready-made for the league. Sure, were there questions about his body type, and could that have turned against you? Sure. But he's been an Iron Man for the past 2 years. Only missed one game in 3 seasons. Excuse me. So he's been an Iron Man for the past 3 years. Only missed 1 game, and then the way he showed up in that playoff game when everybody else was nowhere to be found, putting up over 140 yards on 7, 8, 9 catches, whatever it was. Got to give credit where credit is due. Devontae Smith gets an A for me for just showing up, doing his job, maximizing every opportunity he got, and he got you another back-to-back year of over 1,000 yards with less opportunities. So I'm rolling with Devontae Smith with an A.
It's 3,000 yards in the last 3 years, which is
insane. Through 3,000 yards over the last 3 years. I think that first year he had 900 and some change.
He's over 3.
But over 3,000 yards past 3 years, over 1,000 yards on average. he's been super consistent or reliable. I'm with you on that. He gets an A.
The third wide receiver position, Olamide Zaccheaus, I like him a lot, but I'll tell you this. That third wide receiver spot with Kwesi in there, I give it an F, an underutilized position on the team. It was maybe the most underdeveloped position on the team. It was not being able to spread the ball around in any way whatsoever. You got very little out of that. It was almost like you were playing 10 on 11 every single time you walked into a football game. You got nothing out of that, no matter who you put in there, Old Man Jones and whomever. You've got to at least upgrade that to a position where, get this, Tone, I want my number 3 guy to be able to beat your number 3 cover guy.
Mm-hmm.
And no time at any time in any ball game were you in that position. You played 10 on 11 every single game you played in. And the rest of these guys, even Baker Mayfield, had 9 different targets in that game on Sunday. They've got to do a better job at utilizing the 3 hole here, because some of your biggest mismatches are going to be in that 3 versus the 3 covering the guy. And hey, the year that the Rams won the Super Bowl, who was the 3 guy? You know who he was? Odell Beckham. Beckham was in that playoff game before he got hurt. He had 100 yards. I mean, when you have a 3 guy that's whipping on your 3 cover guy, you're going to win that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because they haven't been getting the most out of that number 3 receiver position. And in my humble opinion, as the number 3 receiver, above all else, even if you're not the most talented, I believe above all else, as a number 3 receiver, your responsibility is to be sure-handed. Period. As the number 3,
or be in the run game a factor.
Yeah, your job is to
run game.
Your job is to be a factor in all facets. That's your job.
That's right. Your objective is the ball's not coming to you.
Be a factor.
Either be a decoy, run the ball in sure hands.
And also,
That's the definition of that position, and it's not in Philly.
Right. And also, with that position, you have a responsibility to run every single route as if the ball's coming to you. Because if you don't, they're not going to key in on you. That's one thing about this wide receiver group that I don't really like that much. Devontae Smith, not him, but everybody else. It seems like if the ball's not coming to them, they don't run their routes with the same intensity. And that has to come back to the wide receiver coach. Because in my humble opinion, I've seen teams have receivers out there, they're running their routes, and you don't know who the ball's going to, because everyone's running their routes exactly the same. They're running their routes the way they're meant to be ran. They're not running it as if, okay, it's not coming to me, so I can kind of take a play off. That's something I don't like. So I believe if they're going to revamp some things, they definitely got to look at that wide receiver coach position and find out why those guys aren't running every route as if the ball is coming to them. But to your point about Quez and Olamide, I like Olamide. I wouldn't mind having him back, just to, especially if he's going to have more opportunities. Quez, he can hit the bricks.
That whole position, I give an F, because it was non-factor this year.
You have to.
And it just was a nothing. You played 10 versus 11. Tight end, Dallas Goedert. I gave him a C, and I'll tell you why.
I'm with you on that.
Lack of production.
Injuries and lack of production. It's just
a lot of that's got to do with coaching. A lot of that's got to do with the quarterback. A lot of that's got to do with him personally, and also to his injuries. Personally, I think this guy's an underachiever. I look at him and I give him a C. He's got talent that is over the top great, but his production doesn't fit the production because he misses 25% of it. I can't rely on you, kid. And I can't rely on a coordinator that can't put him in a position to be a factor, even though he can be a massive factor. They've underutilized him. Mm-hmm. So for me, in this position this year, Dallas Goedert was a C. He was very marginal this year in his production this year. Injuries on top of it and lack of coaching, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But he was very common this year. So he gets his exit. When I'm talking to him, you need to pick it up next year, kid, and you need to show us so he can be healthy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The fact of the matter is, they got nothing really out of that tight end position. And when you look at Dallas Goedert and what you expect from him, he's too talented to only be providing you what he's been providing you. He's too talented to always stay on the damn medical table. It's so hard for me to.
How could Jake Ferguson be better than him?
and he shouldn't be. Jake Ferguson was a machine this year.
The guy in Washington is emerging.
Sam Laporta, rookie. You know what I mean?
The guy up in Detroit looks great.
Yeah. Listen to this. Here are these tight end stats, right? Sam Laporta led tight ends this year in let me see here. Make sure I got this right.
Shit, he has to be around 90 catches.
So, all right, here we are. Let's just go by yards. So, George Kittle led tight ends in yards. And then it's Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram, TJ Hawkinson, Sam Laporta, David Njoku with Cleveland, Trey McBride in Arizona, Jake Ferguson in Dallas with 761, Cole Kmet in Chicago, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts,
Jesus.
Dalton Schultz, Tyler Conklin, and then we get to Dallas Goedert finally. Dallas Goedert is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th best tight end in the league in terms of yards. Unacceptable.
Underproductive.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable. The guy in Cleveland's better.
Simple as that. He's better, more available, and he got damn burned in the face. My man showed up to the game with a mask on because his face was charred from being burned. He still played the game and balled. So it's just like, Dallas Goedert.
He's a hurricane too, though. Just so you know. So I'm a little.
Njoku was a hurricane, really?
Yeah, he's a hurricane.
Oh, get the hell out of here, man! You guys are psychos. So you know how that goes. But
hey, I'm a little biased because I love the kid. Follows me on Twitter, and I congratulated him. I said, "Man, you just the kid up in Minnesota too, man.
Yep,
he's
Miami,
the tight end they got up there in Minnesota. He's also a hurricane.
Yeah. So it's.
I love them guys. Let me go here now.
Yeah, no problem.
Jordan Mailata, B+. I thought he had a great year.
Yeah, I would probably give him an A- only because he was their highest graded O lineman.
He's the highest graded O lineman to make the Pro Bowl.
Yes, and here's the thing, right? See, he's playing in the era of Trent Williams and Tyron Smith. I get it.
Yeah.
I ain't mad at it. I get it. So, but overall, I feel like Jordan Mailata had a better year than last year. Last year he battled the injury with the shoulder, and then he was kind of inconsistent, but still was good, but inconsistent. I feel like this year was his best year by far. I'll probably give him A-. I'll probably give him A-.
I gave Leonard Dickerson a C+. I thought it was solid, but I didn't think it was great.
Really? Interesting.
I thought he was. Now look, do I think he's one of the top 10 guards in the league? I do.
Yeah, he was a Pro Bowler this year too.
Like Zach Martin kind of shit, like that kind of, and maybe I'm expecting more out of him because I think he's got that ability. But I thought I would see like the guy in Cleveland, that kind of leap, the guy in Indianapolis, that kind of leap up there to get way up there in the top 4. And I didn't see it. And again, average for him, he's still a top 10 guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so maybe that's unfair, maybe B-, but I mean, I had higher expectations for him, and maybe I'm gauging him a little too high.
I mean, I noticed that when it's guys you really believe in, you're harder on them way more, and I can respect that because Landon Dickerson from the measurables, dude is a tank.
Yeah,
and I would give him a B+. He made the Pro Bowl this year. In three seasons in the NFL with the Eagles, he's been a Pro Bowler his second and third year, which is the year that just ended. So I got to give him a B+ at minimum. I didn't like. The reason he's not an A for me is because he was in and out of the lineup one too many times for me.
Maybe that played more of it too with me.
And also for me personally,
he was nicked up.
Elijah Canty, what he did to him.
Yeah, man, he did.
That kind of
maybe last impression.
Yeah, so I give him B+.
Yeah, okay.
For all the reasons I mentioned.
This is what I say about Jason Kelce. I gave him an A-, and I thought that he kind of faded a tad at the last 3 games. I still think this, though. Again, when you're talking about a man like that, the difference between A+, A-,
you're splitting hairs, right?
Is this. Like, you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
It's like even he would probably go, kind of times, but still, I really it's such a high level of hard to be critical of a guy like that. But when you guys set such a standard like that, you notice some things sometimes. Like I always tell everybody with Mariano Rivera, when Rivera has a bad outing, you remember that. Okay? You remember when he didn't get it done, and there were so few times.
Right, because
So it's
and
kind
that's
of
that's
like
why you
that a
remember.
little bit.
No, I feel you on that. I would give Kelsey this an A- as well, because I felt like, and again, hear me out on this, Eagles fans, and Sills kind of laid it out. When someone's so great,
Yep.
and they have the slightest tick or hitch in their game, we're going to notice it. So for me, I feel like Kelsey had a slight, very slight down year comparison to last year. But peep game, his down year
I know.
got him a first team All Pro. And let me ask you this question, Sills, because you played the game, you played pro for about 7-8 years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to shortchange you. How hard is it for a guy to walk away from the game when you are at the pinnacle of your craft?
Okay.
You are literally.
I'll put motions into this for you. Always remember, your first and true love is not your wife. It's not your children. It's nothing like that. Your family. It's the game you play. The hardest divorce you'll ever have in your life. Men walk away from women. Men walk away from children. Men walk away from a lot of things at times in their lives.
But their
The
passions.
hardest thing to do is walk away from the first love of your life. And that's the game. And remember, Michael Jordan's the same person he was when he was 29 years old.
Yeah.
But the difference at 62, Jordan's heart's still the same. His heart's still the same. His still competitive juices are the same. His body fell apart. That's it. Your heart and your love for what you do and your love for who you love, your first love is always football. No matter how much you tell you people, I love my wife, I love my kids, and you do, and but the thing that you committed to yourself to is the love of that game that you have to sacrifice for. So when walking away from something you love, remember, you're not being, very few men like Kelsey have an opportunity to walk away from it. Remember what we're
on top.
90, what 90% of us are? They divorced us.
You were pushed out. Yeah, you're right.
We were divorced. So get this. We cry because we're being told we don't love you anymore. He's got to do the opposite. I don't love you anymore.
And that made you harder.
I couldn't do that.
When you're that good. It's not like he's hanging on by a thread. He was the first team All Pro. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. First team All Pro at age 34, 36, whatever, how old he is. Like, it's.
Dude, you would have to carry me on a stretcher in a gurney, and my legs would have to be completely broken, and I would have to be on being read my last rites for me to quit that thing.
Yeah.
Football is something that, you know how hard it is to not play that game anymore, man, when you just, it's funny, man. Get this. There was a ball on the ground the other day. I jumped out of my chair.
Oh, my God. I was actually about to ask you, how often do you?
I can't. Ball! And I'm like,
it's
so ingrained in my mind, man.
That's what I was literally about to ask you, right? When you're watching games or whatever, or maybe you're watching your daughter play rugby, whatever it is. How hard is it for you? Like, how often does your instincts kind of just jump through the screen sometimes?
Dude, like I said, every time I see a football on the ground, I scream at my wife. I could be around anybody. My wife will just start laughing. She'll go, "CTE, it's okay. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He doesn't know." So that's how hard that thing is. Yeah. Let me get to Cam Jurgens.
Cam Jurgens gets a C+ from me.
Me too.
C+.
That's what I said. And I said this. I'll tell you what. Of all the draft picks that Howie Roseman has drafted in the last 3 years, Devontae Smith and him he's the second best.
I will put Landon Dickerson the second best. And then
last 3 years?
In the last 3 years, yeah, because Landon Dickerson was in that Devontae Smith draft.
He was in the 2020. Oh, he was.
Yeah.
And you
It
know
was
what?
Devon-
And it's unfair to Jalen Carter because I liked Jalen Carter this year. I liked him a lot. I
He
had
fell
no
off towards the
problem.
end, but
But yeah, Cam Jurgens, I gave him a C+, and I think
Yeah.
get this, he proved to me he can play in this league. And get this, he made himself more money because you know why? If anything ever happens, you now have an emergency guard and you have your heir apparent at center.
Mhm.
Just think of this. That guy played really good football out of position. He's
yes.
a pretty talented kid.
No, yeah, he can definitely play in the league. Here's the thing, right? When you're building an O-line, everyone's not going to be Pro Bowls or all pros. So Eagles fans, we've been spoiled with that. Right?
Hey, I just want him to be a
And-
starter, and he is.
Right. And that's my thing, right? You drafted him in the second round and he started for you. Now, granted, the reason he gets a C+ from me is because I felt like there were times where he was outmatched, but I think that comes with the experience
It does.
and also health. He has to
Yeah.
find a way to stay out of the tub.
Well, he's
So-
undersized a little bit.
Yeah,
But that's
so was
because he's
Kelsey.
a center.
Right. And Kelsey's
But it shows
undersized.
you how good he is.
Right.
He's an undersized guard. Today's NFL guards are 6'5", 315, 325. He's
Yeah.
6'2", like 305. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
but for a center, that's what Kelsey is.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you on that. C+. Just up and down, up and down first year starting, but I think he is a qualified starter. He just has to get more experience. And you said, and you told me this: linemen don't really hit their prime until about 29, 28,
Dude, he's
29,
not going to
30.
be great for 5 more years.
Mm.
No, he'll keep going.
No, I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean.
Like Landon's got so much. He has so much of a ceiling. Dude,
Landon, he has Zach
Landon
Martin
has
ceiling.
really a high ceiling.
Yeah, he has a Zach Martin type of ceiling.
Yes. That's why I'm hard on him because I think he's a Zach Martin guy.
Yeah.
That's what I said about Lane. I gave him a B-.
Yeah, I was gonna say a B, solid B.
But here's why I gave him B-. Again, another guy that sets the standard so freaking high over here that he's up here in like, I mean, I saw him get beat this year quite a few times.
Yes, I did too with the bull rush.
Okay, and I saw guys get around him, and I saw guys bull rush him. Now he was injured quite a few times this year. Their scheme didn't help him. The running backs didn't help him in pass protection, especially
The quarterback didn't help holding on to the ball.
Quarterback walked into numerous sacks, stepping up into the pocket and stepping into sacks. So that didn't help. And again, here's a guy. Watch this. His B- to someone else. I like Sills. Would you take another right tackle over Lane Johnson? No.
No.
Just tell. Okay. So remember this. I gave him a B-, right? But would you take any other right tackle in the game right now over him? No, not close.
Yeah, I don't care how old he is.
All you need to know.
I'm taking Lane, and Lane wasn't Lane first team All Pro this year as well.
I believe he was.
So again, Kelsey and Lane, by our standard or estimation, they had kind of down years a little bit, and it still made first team All Pro.
Crazy.
This Eagles fans, we
But
don't
it's
realize
the level they set, Tone. It's the level of excellence.
We're so spoiled at these positions.
Don't drop. See, what people like to do sometimes, they'll compromise the level and the bar that people set or teams set, and they'll compromise themselves. Like I think in Pittsburgh, people compromise themselves. You know, with well, we haven't had a losing season in 17 months. Well, shit, man. In Pittsburgh, these guys used to worry about winning the Super Bowls, not having losing seasons. You need to raise that bar again a little bit. Okay, and I know Mike has that bar. But fans sometimes like we haven't had a losing season in 17 years. So fucking what?
So where do you think the Eagles fans bar is right now? If you had to guess as an onlooker, right? You know, you've been covering this team for the past 3, 4, 5 years. Where do you think Philadelphia Eagles standard is right now based off everything that you've seen us experience?
I think Eagle fans want to be one step ahead of Dallas. Because if you had more of an expectation, you would never tolerate losing Super Bowls or just having good seasons and talking about and posting 10-1 and all that other shit. It's insignificant. At the end of the day, This is about winning the last game of the year. I think your level has raised since the owner took over. And I think the fact that you're being competitive all the time, it'll raise your step every single year. I want more. I want a little more. Then you win a Super Bowl in 17. Your expectations since 17 have risen a lot. Philadelphia Eagles never had that mentality about winning Super Bowls prior to 17. You guys were a good franchise to a great franchise, but never really consistently great all the time. Andy had you in a position that kept you competitive, put you in those NFC title games. But I never looked at the Eagles as being one of those premier Green Bay, Dallas, Pittsburgh. Then New England came on the scene. Even Indianapolis with Peyton Manning. I never looked at you guys like that. Then when you won in 17, it changed a little bit because I saw you do something against Brady. Then you started winning more. Then you started getting great players in there. Then there's really quality guys. I think personally, the best era of football in Philadelphia Eagle history started from 2004 to where you are right now. And I think this has been the best era that franchise has ever had.
Yeah, it's so funny. You said something interesting. Being one step ahead of Dallas is kind of like our baseline. And when you said that, and I'll say this real quick before we get our guy Mike Missinelli on. I can't wait to hear his perspective. I'll end it with this. When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas, right? And when Dallas lost to the Green Bay Packers, I'm gonna be honest with you, and I never said this to anybody. When they lost, it made me more comfortable with the Eagles situation.
Because you want to be one step ahead of Dallas.
And that goes to your point about always being a step ahead of Dallas. And
that's me
being honest with myself. Even though I'm all about Super Bowls, when I knew our struggles were real, when I saw Dallas lose the way they lost to Green Bay, if I'm being honest with myself, it made me okay with whatever happened in that Buccaneers game. And I don't know if that's sad or just where we are as a fan base as a whole. But
if you're going to go out, I'd rather go out ahead of Dallas. I get it.
Yeah. Because
I'll say it one more time to you before I get Mike Missinelli on here.
Yeah.
Let me say this to you here. In 30 years that guy's owned that football team, he's underachieved because of the waffling decisions that he's going to make now with Nick Sirianni. And every single time, remember, as I bring Mike on here, real quick before I do, you either have two options: status quo or course direction. There's no other way around it. Tone, great stuff.
Yes, sir. Always a great talk. Talk soon.
Appreciate it. And Angelo the other day was on with us, and he's on with us every Monday. And he said that he believes that Nick Sirianni should be fired. And he's going to come on next week and toast some champagne if he is. I'm not thinking that's happening. Let's see what Mike Missinelli, a part of the Big Sills Mafia here. Mike Missinelli joins us here. Mike, I appreciate it. Thanks for doing this, man.
Dan Sileo, how are you today?
So Angelo said on Monday, or was it Tuesday? He said that he's going to come on the day that Nick Sirianni is fired and drink a toast and have a toast of champagne. Are you in that? Are you going to be toasting, or do you believe today that it's going to be status quo and they're moving ahead with Nick?
Well, here's the thing. Angelo has been known to celebrate the fire. I don't celebrate the firing coaches. I just give my opinion on whether I think they should be fired. And there's no question in my mind that I would never come back with them. After that collapse, and a coach can be judged almost more on that kind of a situation than winning, because talented players win. In a situation where your team has disintegrated and you end up losing 6 of 7, you are unable to stem the tide of that dysfunction. And to me, that's not a coach who should be able to come back, because nobody could trust him at that point. That was a good team. It wasn't like it was a bad team. It wasn't a 4-12 Doug Peterson team. This was a good team that started off 10-1. They lost their way. This guy's decision was, although I think it was Lurie's decision, to change defensive coordinators in the middle of that craziness, lose the locker room with A.J. Brown. He was unable to get that team ready to play a football game in the playoffs when you had the weakest opponent in the playoffs. So I don't know what justification it would take to bring him back and tell your fan base, well, he's a good coach. I know he's been in the playoffs for 3 straight years. I know they went to the Super Bowl. That window of 6 or 7 games is the most telling thing to me about Nick Sirianni. So what I think is happening now, and it's deja vu all over again for Jeffrey Lurie, this is like the slow drip until the bucket is filled. And that's what's going on right now. It's like drip, drip, drip. He took 8 days to do this to Peterson when it happened. So what he's doing now is getting ducks in a row. He's trying to do his own research on who the coordinators would be, who would be great members of the staff. There are 2 reasons why Sirianni might survive. One is Lurie's ego, because 3 years ago when he hired this guy, he was showing off his brilliance that he found the next new shiny toy. And if he goes back on that, he looks ridiculous. And the other thing is, if Sirianni will now keep the job under Jeffrey's tenets, which is, yeah, you can have the job, but here's what we're going to do. I'm picking the staff. This is going to be your defensive coordinator. This is going to be your offensive coordinator. Here's going to be your staff. If you want the job under those parameters, we'll give you another year. Peterson told him to F off when he gave him that, because Peterson wanted to keep 3 members of his offensive staff. So that's what I think is going on. I think he's got 2 slim chances to survive. But if you're asking me, there is no way you can sell Sirianni to that locker room anymore, which now has to be broken completely down, or your fan base.
How about this, Mike? And again, I think he should be fired too. I want that clear. But here at the other side of this, you mentioned it. Well, when he first got the job, he didn't hire any of those assistants. He said that when he was at the Super Bowl this last February, that he had to introduce himself to 80% of the roster on the coaching staff. So many of those coaches were already in place. And then on top of that, Mike, you said it. So he walks into that meeting this afternoon with Jeffrey Lurie, and he goes, you told me to make that move on Sean Desai. You the ones that hired Brian Johnson. And then you hired Matt Patricia. I could turn around if I'm Nick Sirianni and go like this to you, Mike. These were all your decisions. You asked me to do this.
Save him?
And you asked me to do all this, and you're going to fire me because you wanted me to do what you wanted?
Yeah, and then Jeffrey says, yeah, I'm sorry about that. But guess what? I'm the owner, and if you talk about that and balk at it, guess where you're going to get a job in the NFL? So he's got the hammer both ways, Dan.
See, okay, fair enough. But then that's why I say this. I think he navigates himself through that and goes, okay, you want to hire the coordinators again? No problem. That's on you. See, to me, Mike, he's not just going to walk in there and go, hey, fuck you, man, like Doug did. He's going to go, okay, what do you guys want to do? I think this guy knows how to walk. He's not a professional coach, Mike. He's a professional angler. He never has been a coach. He knows how to navigate.
He would take the job. There's no question. If he would let Lurie pick, he doesn't have any other choice. He's a novice coach. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the chance he has to keep the job, because then Lurie saves face by saying, okay, well, I didn't hire a head coach who's a total buffoon, because I 3 years ago bragged about how brilliant my hire was from Nick Sirianni. So, and he gets to pick a staff like he did with Steichen and like he did with Gannon. He did all that research. Who are the hot names? Who are the hot OC, DC names? And that's what he's doing right now. It's clear that he's like on the phone with all his important football people, that he thinks he has this rapport, getting all these recommendations. And that's why it's going to take several days for this to transpire.
I think, get this, I text Frank Wright, and I think Frank's in the conversation at potentially joining the staff in some capacity as the offensive coordinator. He knows the owner. The owner loves him. He recommended Nick. He recommended Shane. He recommended Gannon. You don't think they're going to lean on that? And plus, Nick respects him. In my opinion, Mike, that's kind of the only thing that maybe saves that locker room, is that you bring a guy in that helped you win a Super Bowl. And was the buffer between Doug.
At this point, Dan, can you sell Frank Reich?
Absolutely.
Failure in 2 spots.
For being a coordinator? Yes. Head coach? No.
All right. I don't know. I think the shine is off him. I don't think Lurie wants to go back in time. I think Lurie is a guy who wants to dazzle people with his research, because he is a closet meddler. And behind the scenes, he thinks he's the smartest football guy that's there. and he's got all this collection of important people that he consults with. So I don't think it'll be right. I think it'll be the next, whoever the hot names are, that's who he'll go after for coordinators.
You don't think, hey, by the way, I put these names out there, and you tell me if this is the MO of them. I put Bobby Slowick, the Texans OC, Frank Smith, Dolphins OC, Ben Johnson, Lions OC, Mike McDonald, Ravens DC, Joe Brady up in Buffalo. And everyone's like, wait a minute, what about Vrabel and Belichick? I'm like, name me one coach he's ever hired that's a former NFL head coach that they've put in the building. They never have. They're going to go off this list, right, Mike?
It would, yeah, you're absolutely right. And see, those names are all good names. Would they come to be a coordinator or would they come to be head coach? Ben Johnson's looking for a head coaching job at this point. He's not going to come here as a coordinator. And you're right. Lurie's MO is to do that. However, this situation is so bad at this particular time. Don't you think a reversal of thought process would be like, he's all right, I tried it my way. Now I got to get order.
Would he pivot?
And to get order, I got to get one of these guys who knows what the hell they're doing.
Would he pivot, Mike? That's why I said either status quo or you're going to pivot your course direction. I think he has shown with Chip. Chip was the bad hire, though. It wasn't a wrong mentality to change the course direction. But, Mike, you shouldn't be afraid if you're going to pivot off of something and maybe redefine roles as well for Howie. See, if he pivots, Mike, in my opinion, that's a true sign that they lost some type of faith in Howie. Because if you bring in Mike Vrabel or you bring in a Pete Carroll or you bring in someone like that, doesn't that diminish the role of Howie a little bit when it comes to game day operation?
He would be back in the broom closet
yes.
like he was when they hired Chip. So, I don't know. He's got eminent trust in Howie Roseman. I don't think he would do that at this stage. So, yeah, I think it's very unlikely that those big name guys will be the head coaches of the Philadelphia Eagles. You're right. It would take a pivot of thought, which I don't believe, unless he looks at this situation. And it's bad. The situation is bad. Look at the personnel that they need right now. I mean, their strength. The defensive line was supposed to be their strength. They're decimated there. The two guys in the middle hit a wall. His ends didn't get any pressure all year long. His linebackers were a joke. He needs two safeties. He's got two cornerbacks that have hit a wall. This whole thing needs to be broken down.
Wow. What a massive mess this thing is here. And let me throw this at you now. Mike, do you think that they gave Jalen Hurts the contract too soon?
Well, it's the easiest thing to say now. There was something wrong with him. Now, the scheme, their offensive scheme was so ridiculous and so poorly coached that it leads me to say, well, okay, Jalen was bad and he didn't recognize the same things that he recognized the year before, but I got to throw that into the equation also. I'm watching them play teams that are telling you before the game, here's what we're going to do. We're going to blitz your ass. And all week long, they had no preparation for it. Like it's like mind-boggling malpractice. Like isn't this what you're a coach for? Okay, he's Wink Martindale going to do this. Surely Todd Bowles in this game. We got second life. We know exactly what he's going to do. Here's what we need to do to counter that. Now I know losing A.J. Brown was a kick in the butt, and they didn't have a third receiver that they could count on. But they were ill prepared for what that team told you they were going to do.
And they're the most blitzed team in the National Football League, too. You would think after a while that you would have answers. And see, Mike, to me, a head coach is a guy who's a problem solver. He's a guy that's like McDermott. What did McDermott do? Look what he did. Course change. In season, they go and they elevate Joe Brady, and then they knock out Ken. That kid Allen has been a different guy. The 3-game losing streak with Kyle Shanahan. They had 3 games where they just looked terrible. They lost to the stupid Browns, and he righted the ship. To me, you have to be a problem solver. You can't consistently, week in and week out, go into a game going, are they really going to blitz us again? Are they really going to blitz us again? How do you not answer that when you're the most blitz team in the league?
You're right. And listen, the offense, Brian Johnson gets all the heat. It's a Sirianni offense. So Brian Johnson's doing exactly what Sirianni wants to do.
Absolutely.
When you talk about a problem solver, that's what I've been talking about. When you lose 6 or 7 games, there's a problem. And you introduced it with the defensive coordinator. So you now have to manage to coach your way through this. He didn't. And that's why he doesn't deserve to have the job anymore. He was powerless to stop that cancer that ripped through them over the last 7 games of the year.
Mike, what do you make of Jalen not defending Nick Sirianni? And I say it like this: whatever you want to say about Dak, after they got crushed by the Packers, someone said, "Hey, Mike McCarthy's ass is on the hot seat." Dak goes, "Then my ass should be on the hot seat too, because it ain't Mike, it's all of us. Player accountability." And he went over in like a soliloquy where he went over the line to really defend his guy. And given numerous opportunities, some of the guys from the Inquirer gave him numerous opportunities to kind of go out on a limb and go, "Hey, the Seattle play, Nick jumped down a limb for you. You never defended him. Nick jumped down a limb for you here. You didn't jump out there for him. And, hey, Nick's on the hot seat. I didn't know he was going anywhere." I mean, come on, that guy's not dumb. He knows what he's doing there. He's a calculated guy. I mean, what do you make of all that?
It's telling. But then again, I go, okay, in reality, their offense is trying to protect him because they didn't want to use the RPO, which he excelled in, because they were afraid of him getting hurt or protecting him with his knee or whatever. But at that point, there's got to be a way to coach him and say, "Okay, here's what we need to do with you right now. We need you to get the ball out of your hands quick. So these are the plays we're going to use to do that." The fact that they didn't do that, and I don't know what's in his head, whether he wanted to play the old way and he felt that they took it away from him because, that RPO is perfect for him, and I know he wants to do it. But I think that they had him in mind by going away from the RPO to preserve him. He maybe should have had some loyalty to that, but then there should have been a conversation. Okay, well, if you don't want me to play that way anymore, let's see what we can do instead. And every week, their offense from at the 12th thing, after the 12th game of the year, every week their offense had. How many times did they use a bubble screen to a tight end, or a bubble screen where you got 180-pound Devontae Smith blocking for somebody? It's absolutely ridiculous. We watched it 20 times not work. Now, you would think that these offensive coaches who are supposed to be football experts and pedigree in football could figure that part of it out. We can't use that play. Let's use the middle of the field. We used to use the middle of the field with quick slants to A.J. Brown. Why don't we do that? Why don't we get Goddard more targets? They reduced Goddard. When he came back from the injury, they reduced him to nothing. And they kept taking shots down the field. And I'm going, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Like, I don't have like a PhD in football tattooed on my forehead, but I could see this.
Absolutely. My couple last questions for you here. Do you think Howie Roseman's a good general manager?
I always not going overboard with Howie Roseman. Now let's look at it. He hasn't stockpiled any players, or his coaches haven't developed the young players that he has drafted. Now, at the end of the year, they throw in the Eli Rickses and the Keely Ringos and this and that. He didn't draft. What did he do at linebacker? He watched a guy walk away for $6 million. Now, what does he have at running back? DeAndre Swift's not coming back.
No
Kenneth Gainwell is nobody. They signed Rashad Penny, and for what reason? To pay him a salary? And Boston Scott, that's what they have. They have to replenish there. They have to replenish at another receiver because they didn't develop Quez Watkins. They've had 4 years to develop Quez Watkins. They couldn't develop him. They don't develop young players. So either he's drafting wrong because the coaches look at these players he's drafting and they go, I can't play. Or the coaches are wrong in that they can't teach young guys and develop them. I don't know what it is, but he certainly at this particular point, now when they were 10-1, he was the king of the city. Oh my God. Look at this team, how he's putting together. But then it just dismantled, and we see really what it is. They need 20 players.
Oh, yeah. Dan, if you think about it, they need an entire new linebacking core. I mean, and the decision that they made to put their faith in a guy who was coming out of college with a reputation of not being able to stay healthy, who had only played 34 plays playing the Mike linebacker, which was an asinine thing to do. And you have your cornerbacks. I don't know, Mike, if I look back at the Bradbury deal, he came in for an all-pro season, man. I mean, I don't know in hindsight. You look at it today and you go, poor. Okay, I get it. But still, the defense that you played, you got less pressure. The volume of pressure didn't get home. And you had 2 center field cornerbacks because you played that style of defense. I mean, the style of defense exposed them more than anything else. I personally think they were the same guys from a year ago. But what's the difference, Mike? 70 sacks and a higher volume of getting home. This year, that didn't happen. What happened?
No, they
More
didn't get
routes
home.
got developed down
You're
the
right.
field. Those guys got exposed. They're not man cover guys. And they're kind of who they were a year ago, except that the front seven was
I don't
great
know.
last year.
I don't know about Bradbury being the same. He's like a
He
running
does
back that
look
hits the wall.
wasted.
He hit a wall physically. I don't know, what happened with that guy. And I guess you're right. At the time, I guess you had to sign him. But this is like the rule of 30 that Joe Banner used to have in here. Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, you played well at age 29. You're going to be 30. That changes my perspective on it. Now, he used to take a lot of crap for that, but the rule of 30 usually works out more than it doesn't. So, he's got two 30-year-old cornerbacks that they believed in. And they let another guy go who had some attitude, and they let a linebacker go who was asking for $6 million.
This is a tough one here for you. Do you bring Brandon Graham back?
No, I'm not a sentimental guy. Still,
neither am I.
The fact that he wants to come back and play one more year.
I'm not a celebration tour guy.
I know, and the fact that he said that, I was kind of put off by, because he's bigger than that to do that. So now he's got the fans on his side saying, "Well, you owe him that 1 year." I don't owe anybody anything who can't play anymore, and that's unfortunate. But that's what the NFL is. And there's no way you can waste money on that. Like, what would they give Brandon Graham to come back for 1 year? Would they give him $10 million? No,
Mike. I don't want. No, the roster seat and the roster spot is more important than a celebration tour.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying. Like $10 million, it's $10 million you don't have to spend.
I could pay $2 million in a rookie or $900,000 in a rookie, get the same shit that I got from you last year.
No, I got to move on from the Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham situation. You got 2 more years with Lane Johnson. You're going to have to move Juergens to center and have a new right guard, which is a dynamic that they have to now explore. The Mailata is, starting to show some leaks. Like that strengths of their 2 lines, which they bragged about all the time, are now fragmented. So what do they have? Like, what's the base of the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Final question for you. I mean, this is all going to come down to the one guy in the building and one man only. The guy that had the puss on at Raymond James, and that was the owner. So, Mike, how do you look at him in this whole process? Do you think he makes, again, analytics department, his son's in there now? How do you look at him making these decisions going forward? I mean, this has to be accountable on him.
He believes in himself. He believes in himself. I saw the face. He was totally embarrassed. The worst thing you can do to Jeffrey Lurie is be embarrassed. And he was embarrassed.
Is that the most you've ever seen him embarrassed?
I'm sorry?
Is that the most you've ever seen him embarrassed like that?
Yeah, I've never seen a look like that. That was total embarrassment. And I felt it too. I mean, all fans felt it. If I owned the team, I wouldn't even have put myself in that position to be shown on television. I would have got out of there. But when he is embarrassed like that, he usually will. That's why I don't think Sirianni's coming back. I don't think he can sell that now that he's coming back. But he's going to do the same thing. It's not going to change unless he's gotten religion and say, you know what, I messed this up. I I believe in Sirianni. Now I got to go to somebody who can kick the ass in this organization. I mean, Vrabel, I'm just using that like a Vrabel type. I have to go away from me finding the novice guy that makes me smarter than everybody else. He would have to find that kind of religion. I don't think he's going to find it. And I think right now it's just, like I said, that slow drip until the bucket fills up. And then next week, he'll announce that Sirianni is back, and he'll do it publicly. But it'll be my choice for all the coordinators and the coaching staff.
So again, that was going to be my last question. You think this is? Do you think that's a quick decision? Because he's taking 8 days and that's his MO?
Yeah,
and he's going to do that?
He's trying to find out who he can get. And if he can get the next shiny new toy as a head coach, he'll get that. But if he can get the 2 shiny new toys to be a coordinator, he'll let Sirianni survive, which takes the heat off of him.
Oh, so you think he's working dual track here?
Yeah.
So he's working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Figuring out to keep him, but he's also in the same process reaching out to people going, is this guy the right fit?
Yes.
And then he's going to come to a decision and go, what's in the best interest of our team going forward?
That's what I believe is going to happen. Yep.
Wow. Mike, tell folks, I know you do a podcast too. By the way, folks, the post-game show was fantastic this year. Mike did such a sensational job. One of the true legends I'm privileged to have both him and Angelo come on the program. I love both these guys so much and their work. You know, when I first got into business, these two guys were part of the whole thing there. And you did such a great job on our post-game show. I know you also do a podcast. Please tell folks how.
Yes, the podcast is sponsored by Bet Rivers. You can just check out the Mike Missinelli podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And it's basically the same me without phone calls. You know, the people that listen to me all these years, you know, I don't hold back an opinion. I don't curry favor with anybody. I give you what I feel is the right thing that the fan should hear. And that gets me in trouble sometimes. It gets me in trouble. It's just like what you do. You know? Right?
How come we're a dying breed? We say, Angelo says the same thing. I go, Angelo, you're not on WIP because, well, no, you are not on WIP because of the money, just by the recent hire. Of course, you're going to go down with, they're going to pay guys with Skittles nowadays. Yeah, I mean, they hire a guy at WIP and they gave him like food cards to do the show now. So, hey, no. Guys like Mike and Angelo and all those guys have great opinions and they don't work for, per diem.
You know, Dan, I'm glad you brought that up because the industry has changed so much. Sports Talk Radio has changed so much. When we grew up, newspapers were an authority, and newspapers, like columnists, would lay you out. And so, like, that's what our background was. So we went on Sports Talk Radio. We were willing to lay you out and give you the truth. The industry has changed now. Now you have to be either a fanboy, you have to be a bro boy, or you know, a cheerleader, or you have to like curry favor and kiss ass because there's so many other outlets that you can get the information because then teams will ban you. It's a shame,
Mike,
but the golden era of Sports Talk Radio is over.
Mike, completely. Mike, check this out, and I'm not going to name the name, but there was a guy on WIP, and he was in the mornings, and he was talking to Sirianni, and he goes, Nick, how is all of this affecting you personally? And I went like this. Well, I'll tell you one thing's for sure. Me in my day, that's not a question that would ever cross my mind. I want to know what you're going to do to win a football game. I don't give a shit how you're feeling. Hey, Mike, I thought you guys had tough sports talk, guys. You're acting like a psychologist on the air.
I totally agree with you. As if like he was going to cook you dinner. And like I was worried about his mental state because he was going to mess up my steak or something. I get it. No, that's not a question I would ask either. Here's what I would ask. How on earth do you allow your team in the huddle to go rogue and design a play in the freaking sand when you need 6 yards for a first down? That's the question I would ask.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's why that guy's a legend. Mike, thank you so much, my good friend.
All right, Danny. I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
You got it. Mike Missinelli. Absolutely love talking to Mike. Great stuff there. We really appreciate him coming aboard. Whew. Hey, Tone, have I taken a break yet? I that can't be. Wait a minute. I haven't taken that. My God Almighty. No, see, look, when you get an Italian rolled up in here, by the way, Tone's Italian too, as far as you know. Just so you know, Tone's Italian. I get it. I'm not going to say what you said. I'm not going to do that. No. No. I'm not going to do that here. Hold on here. What does he say? Oh, I'm a machine. I love machine. I can't believe I didn't take a break here, man. Holy cow. What a fat talking guinea. I can't believe it, man. I'm just barking my ass off over here. Hey, our good friends at Hooters right now. Don't forget. Calendars are out. 2024. No question. Hey, by the way, Tone, I want you to do me a favor before when we come back in the top of the hour. If you could come on again for just a couple minutes. I didn't do the defense. And I want to do the defensive side on giving the player exit grades. And then we'll bow out of that. If I could get you for just a couple more minutes there, we'll do something on that as well. We'll do that at the top of the hour. Don't forget, hey, in the calendars, man, there's like $100 in coupons that are in there. Also, football this weekend with the divisional rounds on Saturday and Sunday, going to be great. In-game, $2 off every pitcher. $1 goes to a local charity for proceeds. Don't forget northeasttutors.com, northeasttutors.com. Hey, Wing Wednesdays, man, absolutely spectacular. 1983, that's the year the place was founded. All you can eat. Kids eat for free on Saturday. Northeasttutors.com. That's northeasttutors.com. And when you do me a favor, you roll in, tell them Big Sil sent you.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Big Sil's National Football Show, final hour of the program. We appreciate all you guys coming aboard here. I'm going to rank here the quarterbacks after the wild card weekend and the performance that they had this past weekend, the 12 quarterbacks. As we go into the divisional round, that'll change obviously next week. And guys who performed this past weekend at the quarterback position. By the way, I'm going to bring Tone back here in a couple minutes here when it comes to talking about the defensive side when it comes to the Eagle exits. Like every player today goes and talks to his position coach and has a come-to-Jesus conversation on what they need to do for the upcoming 24 season. So we'll do that here in a second. Also, we'll take a look at some of the free agents that the Eagles have as they move forward into 24 here. I ranked the quarterbacks this way coming out of the wild card weekend. I put Joe Flacco 12th. I thought he was terrible. He turned back into Joe Fluco. I put Dak 11. I thought Dak played horrific. Even though he put up those empty calorie stats, he did not show up. He was terrible. Took accountability for it, but end of the day, I don't care about taking accountability for not showing up. Show up, kid. Hey, I'm sorry I sucked. That's what he basically said to everybody, especially Cowboy fans. Hey, I'm sorry I sucked. I mean, it's kind of a slap in the face. I got Jalen Hurts 10. I thought Jalen was uninspired. I didn't feel he wanted to play in the game against the Buccaneers. He had no energy whatsoever as a leader. Thought he was terrible. Tagovailoa, very limited. He was exposed by Kansas City. I got him at 9. He's very limited. They're probably going to give him something in the $40 million range, though, when his contract is negotiated with Chris Greer and those guys with the Dolphins. So I would say that. Mason Rudolph kind of hung around a little bit. I didn't think he was overly horrible, but he's Mason Rudolph. I thought Mahomes was very good. I got him at 7. Thought he did a nice job against Pittsburgh. I got him at 7. I got Jared Goff at 6. Jared Goff getting a playoff win, holding off Matthew Stafford. I thought he played well. I got Josh Allen at 5, no turnovers, 274 yards in offense. Thought he did a great job. Hey, I got Baker Mayfield 4th. I thought Baker Mayfield played his ass off, and I got him at 4th. I got Matthew Stafford. I thought Stafford was excellent in that game in a losing effort, 3rd. And the two guys that I was just stunned with is CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. And I'm going to go Stroud 2nd. And I'm going to say Love 1. So the quarterbacks coming out of the weekend and the wild card weekend, Jordan Love 1, Stroud 2, Stafford 3rd, Baker Mayfield 4th, Allen 5th, Jared Goff 6th, Mahomes 7, Mason Rudolph 8, 2 and 9, Hurts 10, Dak 11, and Flacco 12. I mean, Dak Prescott's numbers were ridiculous. And they were ridiculously non-effective. I don't care what they did. By the way, before I bring Tone on here, finish up the defensive side. So this weekend, I'm going to get CJ Stroud versus Lamar Jackson. Are you that is appointment-setting television. Oh, wait a minute. Brock Purdy versus Jordan Love? Mahomes Allen. Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and I'll say this, that's the reclamation game. But the two games, get this, Jordan Love and Brock Purdy, okay, I get it. Purdy played great. But CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson and Mahomes versus Allen. What do I want to see more? Who should be the headliner there in the opening act? Let me bring Tone in for that one. Bring him back here. We'll do the defense here in a second because I didn't.
Part 2.
Dude, who's your opening act if you had these two acts going up on stage? CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, or Mahomes Allen?
You got to go Mahomes Allen. You got to. Because of the history. The history. They have been going at each other back and forth over the past few years, playoffs, regular season. I think that's appointment setting because now Josh Allen gets an opportunity at redemption. Remember how things played out last time when they met in the playoffs? You know, Josh Allen did everything possible to win that game. All of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes drives down the field in less than 13 seconds. How is that possible? So I think that game, that rematch is top billing.
Man, CJ Stroud and Lamar Jackson.
I know that's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy. Take your pick, honestly. But I think again, the Allen and Mahomes history is why I choose it.
I get it. You're
history.
right.
Because that's the new, in my opinion, that's the new Brady. That's the new Brady Manning. What do you think about that?
Stroud's going to, in his own division, is going to have Trevor Lawrence and Trevor Lawrence and Stroud. Look at all these young guys.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, look at all these young quarterbacks, man, that you're going to be playing against here, man. I mean, look at this here. Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud. You still call – well, Mahomes is 30. I'll go Josh Allen.
Mahomes is 30?
Jalen Hurts. I mean –
wait, Sills, Mahomes is 30?
I think so. Is he? I thought he's like either 29 or 30.
He's 28. He's 28.
He's 28. Okay, well, then he's still kind of young.
Still, though, it seems like he's been in the league forever, right?
He sure does, man. Hey, what'd you make of what Mike said? Think he should be fired?
If I'm being frank on myself, no pun intended. I'm quite ready to move on because I don't believe his voice carries weight in the building anymore, as if it ever did. But I just don't think. I understand what Fletcher's trying to do, but he's not guaranteed to be here next year. So what does he have to lose? Jason Kelce, same thing. If you notice, the guys who are like damn near guaranteed to be here beyond this point, they're not saying anything. All the guys who are out the door or maybe out the door, they're doing all the talking. And I mean, granted, they are the leaders, but I think you got to switch it up. I think you need a total overhaul of philosophy. I'm ready for a new look Philadelphia Eagles franchise. And I don't think they'll do it, but I think he should be fired.
Oh, good. I'm glad you quantified
You know,
that
I
because
gotta listen. I'm a politician, Sills.
Oh no! I'm glad because you know what needs to be done, but you know what won't be done because they don't think that that's them.
Exactly.
So it's funny. Mike said though he thought he would take the same kind of length that it took to fire Doug, 8 days, which means probably next week, sometime midweek, like Wednesday or Tuesday, that you're going to hear something.
Now, here's the thing, right? Mike is not off, but here's the thing: you wait that long, you kind of limit the pool of coaches you may be able to pull from.
Well, no one's been hired yet.
That's true, but here's what's going to happen though.
Now it will go like dominoes.
That's exactly what I was about to say. The moment the first guy gets hired, dominoes are going to start falling.
Yep.
Everybody's going to start pulling the trigger on their deals because you know what's going on right now, right? I think with all these high-profile guys, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Vrabel, Harbaugh, I think a lot of these teams are trying to see who pays what guy what, and then they'll start teetering up and down from there. So, who do you think is going to be the first guy hired?
Harbaugh did something to Michigan today. Do you see what he did? He
Didn't
put
he
these parameters in his contract.
But he knows they're not going to. He knows they're not going to give that to him though.
But okay, because what he's doing is, you know what a lot of these schools do now? They put fire with cause. If they like Mel Tucker. Mel Tucker had like $75 million on his Michigan State deal, but because he was fired with cause, they don't owe him a penny.
That's wild.
Okay, so, and by the way, nothing has come out of that yet to be anything that Mel Tucker did anything over the crazy. Now, were there some shitty text messages back and forth? Probably so. But at the end of the day, to fire a guy with cause over shit that was consenting, I don't know. Is it unbecoming of a head coach? Okay, but again, is that $90 million worth? I don't know. I'm not. Right. I would like to take that to court.
It kind of reminds me of the Ime Udoka Boston scandal, right?
Yes.
Sure. Did he have relations with a coworker? But they're two consenting adults,
right? And, and I get you want to move on from that, but does that mean you fire a guy with cause with no restitution in the money? See, this is what Harbaugh's doing. That if he's found to be guilty in any way of any kind of shit with the NCAA, that he doesn't want Michigan. He doesn't trust the AD. So he put these little bylaws into this contract negotiation, and he's told Michigan this today. I'll tell you what, I'll take $11 million because they were offering him $11 million annually. He could probably get 20 if he went to the NFL. I'll take $9 million less to be at Michigan if you put those parameters in there. Will Michigan do that? Probably. Now, if they don't,
but if they do that,
in the NFL. He just interviewed today with Atlanta.
Right.
And
if they do that though, that sets precedent now.
It does.
Then
and I don't.
It's a snowball effect. I don't know if they're ready for.
No. And you're talking about a 10-year deal. You're talking about $100 million.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a lot of money for any school. Remember, and this is state money. This is taxpayer money.
Right.
We're not. Think about that, Tone. He's the highest paid employee in the state of Michigan. state-wise. So you got so to me, I'm intrigued by the Charger job for him. Spanos family loves him. They fired the GM, and he would have a lot of say. Now, would he have a lot of time?
And he have the quarterback.
He's got the quarterback, and that to me, again, I rank the jobs, and I put the jobs in there, and I think that job is I think that job is probably the best job, the Charger job, just simply because here's what I did. I ranked the jobs. I go Panthers 7, Titans 6, Commanders 5, Raiders 4, Falcons 3, Seahawks 2. I put Seahawks 2 because of management.
That's not a bad list. That's pretty spot on.
And I got Chargers 1.
Yeah.
Now
the Chargers they
concerns me because they're not very good owners, but the Seahawks have great management. Falcons, I like Arthur Blank.
I do too.
He really wants to win. He reminds me of Bob Kraft. The Raider job is freaky because of Mark Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen or Josh Harris. I look at Josh Harris and go, is he going to run the Commanders any different than he runs the Sixers? Because if that's the case, I don't know.
They're not winning.
Right. It's going to be all about show again.
Yeah, it's an investment. It's just I don't trust him with anything. So
Panthers, I got the Panthers as the worst. Get this. You want to make a lot of money? You take the Panthers job. You want to do a lot of winning? You don't take the Panther job. So you're kind of, to me, you want to hear something really bad? Tone. And kill me if I'm going to say something that's really not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hire a black guy for that job because he's going to have to take the job because it's going to be the last job that he's going to get an opportunity. And Eric Bieniemy gets that job, and he's going to have to work for that asshole.
You know, it's funny you said that because I've been seeing a lot of names coming across the wire, right? And I'm asking myself, which one of these jobs are seriously considering a black head coach? Which one of them are seriously considering?
None of them.
Because Tennessee, they
never.
I think they interviewed Brian Johnson, but I feel like that was just a box to check.
You really think
right?
Those owners are going to hire a black guy?
And here's the thing, right? The higher quality jobs don't normally go to coaches of color. It just doesn't. And you typically
does any job?
Graduate. Hey, there we go. Does any job? So that's the thing right there. You know, you have to. I don't know. For example, Steve Wilkes, right? He's more than qualified to be a head coach. But Willie,
Raheem.
No.
Raheem
Morris, more than qualified. But Willie, no. Eric Bieniemy, definitely qualified. But Willie, no. So, you know what's so funny, right?
You know, Atlanta and the Washington job, would be a great job for an up and coming. I'll tell you who I'd like to hire: Brian Flores for that Falcons job, or Brian Flores for that Commanders job. But he's too strong-willed for a while.
I'd much rather have Brian Flores with the Commanders than Atlanta.
You're talking about a strong-willed African-American man who doesn't take shit from anybody.
Yeah,
he's a hardcore dude. You want to win some. You want to be around. I know him well.
You know,
he's a dungy guy.
You know,
he's a hardcore dude.
I think Ben Johnson would thrive in Atlanta with those weapons. I think Ben Johnson would thrive there with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. In my opinion, I think Atlanta has a decent offensive line, not great, but they're decent. I think I'm so glad we're here now.
No, you know why? I see people like Twiz going like this. Anytime you bring up the problems of hiring African-American guys, it's pandering. I don't give a shit if you like what I say or not. Black head coaches in college football or pro football do not get the same opportunities in hiring practices. Just look at the fucking coordinators or look at the general managers in the league. You call that pandering? I call that truth.
Listen. What were the college numbers that you? What were the college figures you told me? How many
Division I college football programs, and there's 7 black coaches.
Now the math ain't mathing. You know what I mean? That don't add up to me. 100 over 100.
It adds up to ADs and alumni and all those folks.
Right. No, exactly.
You don't have one black coach in the SEC as a head coach.
You got over 130 programs, and you only have 7. You only have 7 head coaches that look like me.
The number 1 college football conference in America has no black coaches as a head coach in its conference.
Not one.
I don't know. Is that
one.
pandering?
And when's the last time they have? When's the last time, if ever? I can't think. When's the last time?
Kevin Sumlin. I don't know if Kevin Sumlin and A&M were in. I think they were still in the Big 12 at the time. I don't think they were in the Southeastern Conference. They may have, but Kevin Sumlin. I know my friend Sylvester Kroom. He was at Mississippi State. I'm trying to think. Auburn or Alabama. That ain't happening.
He was the head coach from 2012 to 2016 at Texas A&M. Let's see here.
They may have been in the SEC. I thought they were in the Big 12 first.
Okay, it says in 2012, someone named quarterback Manziel a starter. Manziel went on to win the Heisman, and someone took Texas A&M in their first year in the SEC to an 11-2 record. Okay, so yeah, he was that was their first year in the SEC.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay,
and he left them in 2017. So basically, since 2017, who's been the Black head coach in the SEC? I don't think there's been any since 2017. No.
Think you're gonna name coaches at all? Do you think a black coach is ever gonna get that Alabama job?
No, no. Hell no, man. Come on, man.
Somebody told me, they go, "What do you think of Deion?" I go, "What about him?"
Not Darren Montgomery. Not Darren Montgomery.
What about Deion getting a Bama job? I go, "What Bama job? What are you talking about? Is there like what are we talking about here? A statesman, like a congressman or something?" No, the head coaching job at Deion has a better chance of being governor at Alabama than he does being the head coach at Alabama.
That is hilarious. He has a better chance of being the coach at Florida State than Alabama. You know,
shit. Deion being the coach at Alabama. No, you mean Deion being the governor of Alabama? He's more of a chance of that shit than him being the head coach of the Crimson Tide. What are you, crazy?
Exactly.
We did the offense.
Right, we did the offense. Right,
we did the offense. I'm going to do the defense here. Now we're doing like we'll do the defense here, and this is how players talk to their coaches today. Is like checkout day. You go meet your position coach. You talk to your coordinator. Then you go talk to your head coach. And that's the process when it comes to checkout day. You clean your locker out. Then you go back to your world, wherever it is. You stay in Philly or you go wherever you are.
And so, question, in these meetings, are these coaches talking to these players one-on-one, or are they talking to them in groups? Like, for example, right?
Well, you know, that's a good point. You'll probably meet in the morning as a team. Then the defense will meet as a unit. And offense will meet.
And then they'll keep breaking it down little by little.
Position groups.
Okay.
And your position groups will meet. Then they'll meet one-on-one.
That's why
it's a long day.
Okay.
Then you go to your equipment guy and you turn all your equipment in and you take all your personal shit out of your locker. Now, if you live in the area, you'll keep your stuff in your locker because you're going to work out there and you're going to use the facility to work out every day. A lot of kids and a lot of guys today live in the communities that they play in. Some go home. So they clean their lockers out completely. And they'll still have some personal items in there, but most of the time they clean it out. And I like to live in the city that I was playing in so that I could go back and work out and use their facilities and not have to pay gym fees.
Eat their food.
Absolutely. Eat their food and eat all that. And usually it's a top flight. Like when I'll tell you something, Tone, when I was with the Cowboys in that Valley Ranch, holy shit, dude, our lockers, our training room, we had a buffet every day. This is the off season. And they had everything set up. My wife used to work out with me. She was my girlfriend at the time. Used to work out with me. We had a mile track. We had an outdoor, indoor workout facility. It was state of the art. Whirlpools, food, catering. This is the off season. Cowboys did it right, man. And they gave us all of our equipment still. It was really dope. And I enjoyed being there for that year. And we stayed there the whole time. So that's kind of what it comes down to. Then, you know, you'll talk to your position coach, and then you'll either pack up, go to Florida, go to Connecticut, go wherever you are, or stay, like I said. And then the head coach will have a conversation with you last, and then the head coach will go. He'll have a coaching staff meeting. Then he'll talk to the coordinators. He'll talk to the position coaches, and then he has to go upstairs and talk. Like, I would say that Sirianni's last meeting is going to be with the owner. So like around 4:30 Eastern time, something like that, 5:30, he'll be upstairs meeting with those guys. That's not the first thing they do. Now, for his sake, him not getting fired right away when he walked into the building today shows you that this thing is a process, like Missinelli said.
And they're still on the fence.
They're going to take a couple days here, and if they were going to fire him today, they wouldn't have let him talk to the team.
Right. It would have been done deal like Arthur Smith. He got fired the day right after the game. So
yeah, you're not going back in addressing the team again.
Right.
Okay, you're just not, because the quickest way to divide, and again, hearing those players endorse Nick. I mean, are any of those guys back?
And that's my thing. You only heard two guys, Kelsey and Fletch, and we don't know if they're even back next year. So how much weight can we put into their word?
I got it. I'm like, all right, let's do the defense here. We'll do this.
Okay.
We did the offense. This is what I say. Brandon Graham, speaking of him, I gave him a C-. It's time to replace him. I'm not into, like Mike Missinelli said, I don't believe in ceremonial send-offs. This is not about Brandon Graham. This is about the Philadelphia Eagles getting better at a position. He's not good enough anymore. Now, and you talk about leadership and all that, it's sentimental, dude. The only reason you would bring him back is sentimental. And get this, his roster spot is more important
than the money.
Than if he took the money at $3 million. I want his roster spot, Tone. Right. The money's not the factor here. We need a roster spot. You need another roster. You can't give chairs away with sentimental feelings to it.
Yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. As much as I love Brandon Graham, they got to get younger there. They got to get younger. They got to get more depth. They got to get guys that can actually influence the rotation. They barely had him on the field to begin with this year, so that tells me everything I need to know. So
it's not an indictment on him.
Yeah, look, he gave you 14 years.
I know he wants to
in
come
a Super
back.
Bowl in the Super Bowl championship.
But
it's
but
okay.
Tone, I know he wants to come back, but you know what? That's not part of this.
That's not what this is about.
Not everybody, get this, not everybody gets to be Jason Kelce. He wants to be Jason Kelce. Well, you didn't have the career Kelce did, nor did you have the year. I mean, Jason Kelce versus Brandon Graham, you know why Jason Kelce gets the autonomy? He's all pro.
He didn't have the year Fletcher Cox had. Fletcher Cox had a great year. So
Fletcher probably, here, we'll get to him in a minute here, but it's not an indictment on anything that man has brought. We're talking about 53
future
roster spots in your locker room that you have to replace. And your defense is going to be critical this offseason on your success. So with emotions, you have to take that out of consideration when you're talking about restructuring and rebuilding a team, because again, ceremonial parades are not going to win you games, Tone. Ask the Steelers with Roethlisberger. They held on to his ass too long. It's time to move.
Like you said, sometimes you get the egg, sometimes you get the shell.
Absolutely.
And it's a part of the game, man. They're pros.
It's a shitty part of it.
It's a part of it, man. 14 years in one place. I get it. I get it.
You don't pass these out. Here, I would say this. Left defensive tackle, Jordan Davis.
C+.
I gave him a C, and I'm going to tell you why. This is what I did. First 8 games, A. Last 8 games, D. And so, F, okay. I mean, that to me is how I saw his season.
Right.
I thought he was spectacular in the first half of the season. Last half of the season, I thought he was a turd.
Non-factor.
So, I mean, you were A and D. So in the middle there, to me, I think you're a C.
Right.
And C at the 13th pick in the draft as a starter in the NFL, son,
unacceptable.
You're back to being a first and second down defensive tackle again.
Yeah, it's Jordan Davis. He's the most frustrating player on the defense, because you see a guy that has all the tools to be a wrecking machine, and you saw what that could potentially look like, especially in the first half of the season, most notably in the first 5 or 6 games. He was unstoppable, unblockable. He was getting off blocks fast. He had quick feet, quick hands. He wasn't laying on guys. He was physical. He was quick. And then all of a sudden, like everybody did, they shot their load in that Buffalo game, and and we ain't never seen Jordan Davis ever again.
After he
So I
ran
gotta
down
get
Allen, man, that was the end of him.
I give him a seat. Listen, hawking down Allen, man. The way he was landing that ground, it was like he booked his ticket to Cancun on that ground, on that turf.
Shit, man.
So
that was like one of the craziest plays I've ever seen anything move that big.
Yeah, like Jordan
Davis.
Davis,
Like a giraffe moving down there, man. I was like, holy shit, man. That thing.
So yeah, he's a player that I see the upside.
Yeah.
But that's what's so frustrating about him. He gets a C+ for me for the simple fact that, like everything you said, he was great in the first half, but fell off in the second half. We need more. You were drafted in the top 15. You have to be an impact player. Now we're looking at the Eagles as if like they made a mistake. Kyle Hamilton was sitting right there. He's a playmaker for the Ravens, and now look at us trying to figure out if Jordan Davis even has the motivation.
He's still a first rounder, Tone.
Talent wise, yeah, but he had
impact. I got it.
You know what I need from him?
Yep.
He has first round talent, but I need him to have undrafted effort.
He has to have impact like Hamilton has.
Yeah.
This one here, it was hard for me because I had to put everything into consideration here for Fletcher.
Yeah.
And I gave him an A-.
Oh, okay. That's better than I thought you was going to give him.
And I, for the role they asked him to do, for how prepared he was every game, for the impact that he played and how he played, he was there every week. He was the most productive lineman they had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have absolutely no problem with anything. I thought he played, and I heard Mike Missinelli and all these guys saying they got to move. I don't know, man. I mean, I would really have a conversation with him and go, look, I can't pay you 10, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 5 with incentives to get to 10. And if you want to come back, we have a spot for you because he's not going to hurt you.
No.
I mean, you know what his role will be next year? His role could be what Sue's role was. And they paid Sue $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can have him fit Sue's role next year and have Davis and Carter in there and get another veteran guy, is there anything wrong with that?
No, and I mean, look, you also got 15 games out of him too, so he's been healthy. He had that one game where he tweaked something and he left.
No, I thought it was an epidural that he had to get because of his back or something.
Yeah, so he had got the epidural and then he missed the following game. But in that Buffalo game, remember, he didn't finish that game, but still he played in it. But nonetheless, he missed 2 games. He missed the game that he got the epidural shot for. And he I think that was the Lions game, wasn't not Lions, I'm sorry. Wasn't that the Rams game? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but nonetheless, regardless though, this guy gave you 684 defensive snaps, which is 66% of the total defensive snaps that was available to him. The dude led your defensive tackle room and snap count. Multi-time pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, former first team All-Pro, Hall of Fame All 2010s team, and the dude is still playing the way he's playing. He gave you 5 sacks on the season. He gave you 33 total tackles. He gave you 3 TFL, 17 quarterback hits. 17 quarterback hits.
I like what he did.
2 pass deflections, a forced fumble that led to a touchdown recovery. Fletcher Cox had a very, very, very good year in my humble opinion. All things considered, I'll give him an A.
Is he 33?
Fletcher Cox is currently 33 years old. 33 and 35 days.
Come on,
33 years and 35 days.
He gets an A- with me.
Yeah, yep, I'm with that. I feel like Fletcher Cox did everything he could in his role. 5 sacks, and you're a 33-year-old DT. Come on,
and you outplayed 2 guys that are 21 years old.
Completely outplayed him.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, now here, I'm going to make a comment here on Josh Sweat, who I really like, but I'm going to say something to you here. You guys and everyone thinks that Josh Sweat underachieved this year. No, Josh Sweat is who he is. This was a year on who he is. Last year was a year who he wasn't.
I said that. Yep.
What you guys have to understand is that Josh Sweat had a Josh Sweat year. Okay, so if you come to grips with that, you thought Josh Sweat was Brian Burns. He's not. He's a real. I like him. I still think there's a ceiling for him to get better. But he's limited, and I think again a little bit here you overestimated because he had 11 sacks last year that you thought he was going to increase that and have another season of double-digit sacks. Well, this is who he is.
At the very least, I thought
He's
he
a 6
would.
to 8 sack guy a year. That you're going to have to deal with that.
Here's the thing, right? Throughout his career, I've always said to myself, Josh Sweat has the toolkit to be a double-digit sack guy. And even if that's 10, 11, 12 sacks a year, I feel like he has that in him.
I do too.
But when you really look at his career, this year's numbers is actually par for the course.
Yeah.
His rookie year was 2018. He didn't really play. But 2019, he played in 16 games, no starts, but played in 16 games, 4 sacks. 2020 played in 14 games, 3 starts, 6 sacks. 2021 played in 16 games with 13 starts, 7.5 sacks. 2022, the breakout year, at 25 years old, by the way, 16 total games played with 16 starts, 11 sacks. And then this year, 17 games played, 17 starts, 6.5 sacks. So when you really look at his numbers, this is actually, again, par for the course. But again, I personally believe when I look at his skill set and how he bends and gets around the corner and his measurables, that at 6'5", 265, at 6'5", 270, he should be getting more sacks, right? His arms are long. He's like a Prairie Mantis out there. He's your prototypical edge rusher. He should be getting more sacks.
He's an underachiever.
But he has underachieved this year, especially. But I also give him this latitude. He played a career high in snaps.
I got it. That's true.
And again, they're pros, and I hate making excuses for guys like that, but it matters.
Snap count thing.
It matters. He played. Listen to this, real quick. Listen to this. He played 828 total defensive snaps this year. That's a career high for him. You want to know the next? You want to know the next closest year? That was 2021, where he had 655 defensive snaps.
Wow. He played 5 extra games.
Yeah, in 2022, he only played 587. So no wonder he gave you 11 sacks. He only played 587 snaps.
Remember, Tone, with guys that big and guys that play like that, sometimes the less reps and the less snaps, you get more production.
That's how BG got those double-digit sacks last year. Yep. Less snaps, more production. Yep. I think Sweat, based off his numbers, in my opinion, his sweet spot from a snap standpoint, if you keep Josh Sweat between 550 and 650, you're going to have a dangerous guy on the field.
And again, I like him. I mean, I want to build my defense like around that guy. Now the backers.
Yes.
The will linebacker, Zach Cunningham, has to be completely replaced. He gets a D+. And again, no disrespect with Zach. I'll say this to you about Zach. I'm not sure what everyone expected from the guy to come into a scheme, and then you change the coordinators up. Mm-hmm. It was chaotic for him, and you had to be just all over the place for these linebackers that you're doing this, get Patricia, then you get this eye, you're being asked to do this, you're being asked to be plugged in here. It's a rush. Everything was so rushed, and it's really unfair, but quite frankly, they put him in a position that he was not able to win, and it's not on the player here, but it is because he's not good enough any longer to play that position. But they put a player who was fading in his career in a position to fail anyway, and he did. Right. So, I mean, I'm not sure what you were asking him to do. You know what I'm saying, Tone? I mean, you were asking him to do the impossible.
Yeah, it's so funny. To your point, they actually, we always talk about the Eagles being a place you go if you want to make some money, right?
Yeah.
Well, this year on defense, you lost money playing for them.
Yep.
And
they put you in positions to lose money this year. And maybe I'll tell you what. Same thing here. Mike linebacker, Zach Leonard. Zach Leonard is not going to play in this league
Shaq Leonard. Yeah, Shaq Leonard. Yeah,
he is not playing in this league again. And I would say this to you. The Colts, I understand now why they dumped him. He gets a D, another position, and another player that was put in an unattainable position to succeed. Is it unfair to him? Probably. Will he get a shot? Probably, because he's not excessively old. However, his back injuries You're talking about a player who's like 28 years old or 27 years old, somewhere in there, but he's got the body of a 50-year-old because of the back injuries. And so if I'm a team, I'm not giving him – I'll give him a contract to come in and to try to make the team, but I'm not giving him any money up front or anything because I think he's toast.
You want to know the common thread with everything you said when it comes to the linebacker position, and it doesn't just pertain to those first two guys that you mentioned, Cunningham and Leonard. You want to know the common thread? The Eagles are putting guys in unwinnable situations.
Correct.
N'Kobe Dean, unwinnable situation.
Unwinnable.
Nicholas Morrow, unwinnable situation.
Unwinnable.
Zach Cunningham, Shaq Leonard. They put these linebackers in these situations that don't allow them to really succeed. And then on top of that, you change the coordinator. When your entire linebacker core is pretty much piecemealed in the first place, what sense did it make to change the coordinator when you just brought in two new pieces and Byard and Leonard? It made no sense.
Here's one of the things that you saw on tape when you watched the 22. Just alone, the communication across the line of scrimmage.
They were running into each other.
I said that prior to the Buck game. I said the problem that you have is that the communication issues. And sure enough, it reared its head in the game. They're running into one another because they weren't communicating. I mean, it wasn't hard to watch, or it was hard to watch, but it wasn't hard to figure out that you had communication issues. And then what really made it awful was, Nicholas Morrow, there was a stretch for 3 games. He was picking it up and playing well. What did they do?
Took him out, put Dean back in.
Kobe Dean in, and then they messed 2 guys up.
Yep, there was a stretch.
The chemistry of developing both guys.
Mm-hmm.
Poor coaching all around in that position. Just let's go to Reddick here. I gave Reddick a B-, and I'm going to tell you why. When Matt Patricia became the D coordinator, I saw the same things they did with Hightower in New England, where they were moving him all over the field and moving him in and out of position. Reddick is not a Hightower type of player. He's not a cover guy. He's not a guy who's a great tackler. And he's an edge rushing pass rusher, and he's a TFL guy. They did not use him in any way to his skill set. They took him away from every single thing that they did that got him that great year a year ago, and it was like they neutered him. I mean, I've never seen 2 players neutered more in my life than Jalen Hurts and Hassan Reddick,
especially in the last half of the season.
Guys were neutered this year. It was almost like the Eagles went out of their way to put these guys in positions to fail. I mean, the Hassan Reddick thing, watching him dropping coverage is hilarious. And I'm like,
he doesn't belong back there. He doesn't belong back there.
You know where he belongs? The backfield.
He's a pass rusher. He's a pass rusher, period. And that's okay.
Matt Patricia was a disaster.
The one thing I'll say about Sean Desai, at least he put you in your spot where he knew you could win.
And he was 10-2.
And ultimately, he was 10-2. Ultimately.
Look at how many playoff teams he beat. He beat the Bucks.
Beat the Dolphins. Beat the Bills.
Beat the Rams.
Beat the Chiefs.
Beat the Cowboys.
And beat the Bucks at the first part of the season.
Dude. And you fired him because
it was an overreaction.
Got killed by the Niners and the Cowboys. And then you turn around and lose with Matt Patricia against the Giants and the Cardinals. And you get blown out by the team that he dominated earlier when you ran the ball for 245 yards. Great. That sounds great. That sounds like you know what you're doing. Dude, what a colossal organizational disaster that whole thing was at the very end here. Let's get over here now to James Bradbury.
F.
I gave him a D.
Wow. You're generous.
It is probably. And this is what I'm going to tell him. You completely underachieved the money we gave you. We have to restructure. We have to restructure your contract. Or you know what I'm going to do? Because I need the roster spot. I'd rather eat the money, get the roster spot, get a rookie to compensate it off. I'll get a guy on a rookie contract. Follow me, Tone. I'll get a rookie contract where I'll get a guy in the second or third round that'll make $900,000, and I'll eat the money and blow you out, and you have no job in the league with the tape you put on, with the play you put on tape this year. Or you can restructure the deal, come back at half the price, take that cap hit down. We'll see what we do. Use him as depth. Still draft a guy. Okay? And now you have some depth at the position, and you play him as your second team guy or your third cover corner guy. Because at the end of the day, he's going to have to compete for a job. The only reason he has to be on that team is because of the salary and the contract they gave him. You have to deal with that because money, remember, pay him, you play him. So, but I'm going to threaten him with his pay and restructuring his contract.
Right. Listen to this. In 2023, James Bradbury allowed a passer rating of 114.3.
Unbelievable.
A career worst for him. He also allowed 11
Had to
touchdowns.
be one of the worst in the league.
Yeah. He allowed 11 touchdowns. He allowed an average of 7.3 receiving yards per target. He allowed an average of 12.3 yards per completion. He allowed 740 receiving yards or passing yards. And he was targeted 101 times, and quarterbacks completed it 60 times. So they had 60 completions to 101 targets, or 101 times he was targeted through 16 games played. But the most damning, the passer rating and the touchdowns and the average yards per completion and target. James Bradbury was awful this year. In my opinion, he gets an F, and if he doesn't restructure that contract, I'm taking the cap hit.
You know what I might do too?
I'm taking it.
I might be a dick and restructure the deal and cut him anyway.
You know what's so funny about it all?
Hey, if you want to be an asshole with me, if you want him and his agent want to be an asshole with me, I'll lie to you and restructure the deal and fire your ass and cut your ass.
You want to hear what's crazy too? His second year in Philadelphia is actually very similar to his second year in New York.
Yeah.
See, he never spent more than 2 years at a place. It was almost like they found him out the following year.
Yeah.
So in 2020 with the Giants, right? He only gave up 4 touchdowns with an 81.2 passer rating, right? In 2021 with the Giants, he gave up 8 touchdowns, so double the touchdowns, and he gave up a higher passer rating in 93, a 93 passer rating. His first year in Philly, a 51.6 passer rating only allowed 2 touchdowns. Was only giving up 4.4 yards per target and 9.8 yards per completion. And opponents had a 45.3 completion percentage when targeting him and only gave up 382 yards, a career low by
Tom,
far.
do me a favor. Stop talking. You're making me crazy with those numbers because he sucks out loud.
He sucks.
Those are numbers that, I can't believe but I know why they did.
He sucked.
Wow.
He sucked. So he gets an F from me.
Okay, and you're probably right, and I'm probably too high and generous with him. How about this one? Because Kevin Byard was a trade, there's like money involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, another restructuring guy. I don't know if I want him back.
Now here's the thing: they already restructured him. So here's the good thing about this situation here. So because
he gets a D.
Yes, agreed. I'm definitely willing to say that. So they restructured him, right? And due to the restructure, now in 2024, he only has a dead cap hit of $711,000.
I may fire him.
So they might cut him.
Yeah, I may
because his cap hit.
No, I'm going to cut him.
Yeah, his actual cap hit is $14.2 million. They're not keeping him.
They're not keeping him.
Right.
No
with
way.
a cap, if you got a player on your roster with a cap hit of $14.2 million and his dead cap hit is $711,000, you're
firing him. Yeah, no, I'm cutting him. I have no interest in redoing a contract with him. So they need to replace that position there. This Reed Blankenship one, I gave him a C+. And I don't know, man. I mean, there's something about the kid I like, but then there's something about the kid where they pick on him at times. Now, was that the environment it was around him, the scheme he was in? Was that the whole entire secondary across the board wasn't good? I mean, there were times where I thought he was the best guy in the backfield, but there
At a
were
point he
times that I
was.
thought he overran plays.
Yeah.
I thought there were times where they picked on him exclusively, especially with tight ends. I mean, I think, get this, I think he needs more reps. And I just think he needs more playing time for me to get a true assessment if I want to replace that or not. But, you know, I don't know, Tone. I'm going to come back with him at that position there, and I want to see him another year back there again. So I think he needs more reps. You know, I want to see him.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you because, Reed Blankenship, he was their highest graded safety according to PFF. He was graded. He had an overall grade of 73.4 as safety. So that's a pretty solid grade. That's on par with the grade you gave him, a C plus, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So that's on par. He had 3 interceptions on the season. He had 80 solo tackles. 26 assisted. So he ended the season with 106 total tackles. On top of that, when it comes to when he's targeted now, his limitations are the athleticism.
Yeah.
He's not fast. He's not quick. He's much more about technique,
He can't
fundamentals.
cover
He can't cover guy. That's his. He has a limitation. Do not get it twisted, because he gave up 6 touchdowns this year.
Like he's not covering Christian McCaffrey
at all. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a guy that's steady, but don't think he's going to jump off the page athletically. He's just not. He's more
but
so.
He's the guy that you have on your roster and in your lineup, because not everybody is high paid guys. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember, you got to balance your cap here with certain dudes. Safety position is something that the Eagles balance their cap with.
Right, and he's the kind of guy that you use to balance your cap. Yes.
Here's the thing with Slay. I gave him a C plus. I think he was a product of a shitty system. I think he's a product of his own limitations too. Because again, the one thing that I've said since day one, since I've been covering the Eagles, he's not a cover corner. He is a center fielder. And when you don't have good pass rushers, he doesn't have the capability any longer to stay with wideouts. And I'll tell you something else that was noticeable this year compared to the last couple of years is that receivers were getting by him. And they were getting behind him now. So for me, I look at him and I would say this here. I would say C plus, Tone.
Hold on, wait. Time's out. I'm sorry. I got a text from So you said, who are you giving the C plus to again?
Darius Slay.
Darius Slay. Okay, that's reasonable. That's reasonable because Darius Slay, he wasn't awful, but he wasn't great either. He wasn't great.
Are you bringing him back? Or do you have to bring him back because of the money?
Yeah. So Darius Slay, he had an overall PFF grade of 68.4. So for me personally, this is what I would do. I would cut ties with Bradbury, bring back Slay for his final season, draft a corner in the first round. That's what I would do.
Yeah. That's
why I have some kind of veteran.
Yeah.
I have some kind of veteran leadership there, and I still got the young up and coming guys. So,
and I may make a trade, or I may sign one of these free agent corners. Also, because one thing Howie can't do, he can't draft corners. So you're going to have to go into the market there. I threw this out here, just a couple guys before we take a time out here.
Yes, sir.
I said this with Jalen Carter. I gave him a B minus.
Jalen Carter?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I gave him a B minus. I gave him a B minus because I thought for a rookie, he played really well. Now, did he play like a rookie? Yeah, played really great early, and he faded late. Well, guess what? Every guy I've ever seen play in the league for 110 years has done that. He's not doing anything that any other great defensive lineman hasn't done. So if you're asking him to go out there and play like Fletcher and know how to play like a pro, that's going to be a problem, Tone.
I agree. His biggest challenge is going to be making sure his motor is ready for the long haul, right? Coming from that Georgia defense, they rotate a lot of those guys. So you don't get the opportunity to play. You're not playing 60 snaps on a regular basis. In those situations, those guys are probably playing 40. You know what I'm saying?
Tops.
35 tops, and they're dominating in those. In those.
So you think you're playing Central Carolina? You think guys playing 60 plays? He's probably playing 15.
Right. Exactly. So when you look at it from that perspective, look, Jalen Carter's talent is not the question. His 1-2, his desire to win, not the question. He's shown me this year that he has passion. I've seen him. I saw him getting in guys' faces. He's a passionate guy. He wants to win. So I like that about him. And he didn't give you no issues off the field, which I feel great about. I like Jalen Carter. I feel like a B minus is very fair, all things considered.
Let me take a time out here.
Yes, sir.
And I'll come back and we'll close it up. But great stuff, Tone. I tell you what, would we not agree? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They may have to replace 7 guys in that defense next year.
That's
7
exactly
out of
right.
11.
Exactly
7
right.
out of 11 may have to be replaced.
2 years and your defense is going through another overhaul.
Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLEX, Eagles.
Here are also your free agents. I'm not going to go down to the bottom of the barrel here with this, but DeAndre Swift you have as a free agent. You're not re-signing him. Now, again, will the organization have a course change? Remember, status quo. Or are they going to have a direction change? Are they going to change course? Here's another one that kind of blows your mind. What was the point of having Rashad Penny on your active roster? Or on your 53-man, I should say. What was the point of having him on your team? Can somebody ever ask the Eagles the question in the offseason? What was the point of having him on the team? Were you trying to hide him from somebody? What was the point? It made no sense. You gave a roster spot away to somebody you never really used. Why did you sign him? Hey, by the way, I don't mind you signing him. Why did you keep him? To keep him away from Dallas? Boston Scott. Another guy that's underutilized that no one cares about in that organization. Penny, Scott, and Swift was good. Quez Watkins, look at these guys that are free agents. Rashad Penny gave you nothing. Boston Scott, you didn't use him. Quez Watkins, not very good. Julio Jones, an old man. Olamide Zaccheaus, I like him. Didn't utilize him. Marcus Mariota, I don't know. Jack Driscoll, Swiss Army knife. Was he an impact? He's on a good unit. Okay, these are free agents. Opeta, I was snowed. He had a great game against Donald. After that, he shit the bed. Jack Stoll, okay, restricted free agent. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Nicholas Morrow. These are all free agents. A couple other guys, but incredible. All right. I'll tell you what, man. The drama continues as the Philadelphia Eagles turn. We shall see, because I think there's a lot of news coming out, and I think these next couple days, the more Mike Missanelli, what he said, I think comes out to be a fact. I think they're going to take a week, and I think they're going to make their decision anytime. You could see a decision made in the next couple days, maybe by next Tuesday, but something's going to come down the pike. Course change or status quo. I really appreciate it. Tone, thank you so much for today. Xander, Big Joe, you guys were absolutely spectacular as always. 2 to 6 tomorrow Eastern, and we shall see you on the flip side.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.